This is The Neutral Position, hosted by Nick Palmisano, bringing honesty and reason back into conversation. Here's your host, Nick Palmisano.
Welcome to The Neutral Position. Today, I have a true character of a human being. Eric Tansey has been a Special Forces operator.
No.
No?
No. Almost.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Successful entrepreneur. Almost. New York Times bestseller.
Almost.
Eric Tansey. He was in the military.
And it was a cop.
He was a cop. And now he makes podcasts and has steaks with people, but not with me.
Right.
Because he's a bastard.
Yeah.
That's who we have on today.
Sure. That sounds right.
Hey.
Hey,
Thanks for being on the show.
hi, thanks for inviting me. I'm having a nice time.
Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, I think we just covered that. You know, no, I do own a distillery.
That's cool.
You forgot that part.
I
And
did.
I think that is a cool
It
part.
is cool.
A lot of
yeah,
people, a lot of people forget that.
And you
That's my
bus
main
your
thing.
own tables at your
do.
bar distillery.
I do. That's like the only thing that I do that's like good. Like I'm really
Everything else
good at
about it
that.
is bad.
No, everything is good, but I don't do any of that good stuff.
Okay.
But like the only thing I do good is bussing tables.
I do want to start with you're a very weird dude, but you have like a really nice normal family.
Thank you.
Talk about that.
Thank you.
I mean, like you know,
you.
your wife is a really nice person. Your
she's very
kids are
nice.
very polite.
Sure.
You know, and but you know, you're like,
Well, how did you guys meet? How do you guys know each other?
how did we meet? Was it through Mike the cop?
Yeah.
I think that's what happened. I think Mike, because Eric and Mike, they did
Right.
the Failure to Stop podcast together, which is
We
a
stopped.
which is a big it's a big deal podcast. Like this guy's
5 days a week or something crazy like
people
that.
pay attention to this man.
Wow.
And then Mike stepped away from podcasting because now he's a real estate mogul.
Mogul.
He's crushing
doing
it.
good.
He's
Really?
crushing- yeah, Mike's crushing it. So he's not doing a lot of the social media stuff. Like every once in a while, he emerges from the cocoon, like
Right.
you
He
know,
can't stay away.
drinks in the sun, like lets it hit him, and then he's like, you know, and he just kind of hides from
I
it.
think the thing that gave him the confidence to become a real estate mogul was his great performance in the VJI documentary.
I'll tell you what, Mike is a stand-up guy. Like he's a very direct guy. You know, and so I'm happy that he's doing so well because so often people that are like, you know,
That make a stand.
well, yeah, he just tries to do the right thing, and even if you disagree with him, you know that he's always doing what he thinks is the right thing.
Sure.
You
That's
know?
fair. I've never worked
do you not
with
agree with that?
somebody- I do
You're
agree.
like wincing a little bit. You're like,
No, I've just
except for the
never-
time that he stole $1.2 million from the Treasury Department.
No, you know, I've never worked with a more honest or fair or person that I trust. Like
Yeah.
I would get into business with Mike and never sign a single document.
Yeah.
Like I
I
have no
agree.
fear whatsoever
Yep.
that his intent would not be
Yeah.
to be a good. He's just that kind of guy.
Yeah.
Now his opinions are very strong, and we differ in opinion a lot of times, that's what made our podcast great.
Yeah.
Right, because it's two law enforcement officers talking about law enforcement related things, with kind of like my perspective. I was like, you know, they call me Susan B. Empathy.
That's good. That's very good.
Because I like, you know,
That's
I
very
have
good.
empathy for a lot of
Yeah.
thist things, you know, and
I'm
Mike's
the-
like, no, you know,
I'm the same way.
hard fist guy.
I have empathy for people.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, it almost always bites me in the ass.
It does. You know what I mean? Like Mike's always right. You know, by the end of the episode, Mike's always right. You're like, well, I guess.
So-
you know, I wanted to say the same thing. I just didn't want to sound like an asshole.
my wife and my business partner Albert, who has your same haircut,
The mullet.
the mullet.
1975 called They Want Their Haircut Back, Eric.
This is the 1990s
That was more.
Jeff
That was
Gordon.
more. That was more 80s. That was more 80s.
I watched Baywatch. Started rewatching the old original Baywatch. Almost everybody had a mullet.
Oh,
in
mullet was
Baywatch.
where it was at. Yeah, it was where it was at.
Jeff Gordon back
Or
in his glory days.
it wasn't necessarily mullet. It was more like feathered. You know, like
Feathered is definitely the word. It was
the
definitely
sides weren't
Jerry
necessarily
curls in the back.
shaved.
David Hasselhoff.
Yeah, he had.
He had a good mullet.
Yeah.
He had like the Jerry curls. Are we allowed to say Jerry curls? Is that still on the table?
I think we're all right.
We're still
I think
good
we're
with
all
that
right
one?
With that. Yeah.
Okay.
I think
He had
we're-
the curls in the back.
Yeah.
A lot of them did.
Yeah.
His son Hobie, you know, in season 2, had the
Had the curl.
Yeah.
I have not watched. Baywatch was never a show that I was big into.
The drama is great. I did not realize how overtly sexual it is, though.
Oh, it's
when I was a kid, I did not see any of that. All I saw was like
it was cool
them
that they
jumping
were,
into the water and rescuing. You know, I tried to watch it with my family, like on the rainy day. I was
it's
like,
slow motion. It's slow motion boobs bouncing.
I was like, dude, this is wild. Yeah, I feel like a pervert now.
I'm in the middle of I've been bouncing between rewatching MASH and rewatching Magnum PI. Oh, and they both hold up. Yeah, they both really hold up.
Good.
You know.
Man. You know what else holds up really good over time is Beverly Hillbillies.
I have not rewatched
that.
That
comedy is underappreciated.
It's solid.
Yeah, there's some good writing in that movie and that show. The acting might not have been so great, but like, man, those the fun. They got some funny.
Yeah, I feel like there aren't too many shows where I look at now and I just love the writing. There are some,
right?
But you know.
Well, it was just really fun. I mean, like, they got some really good zingers back then, and you could tell that back then they were probably a little bit more edgy.
I thought Brooklyn Nine-Nine had some of the best writing, in recent history. That was good, and 30 Rock was good.
Okay, I don't know that I did 30 Rock, but I definitely did.
Dude, 30 Rock is so good.
Excuse me, number one, can we hear you sing "I Want It That Way"?
You are my fire.
Number two, please.
The one desire.
Okay, number three, bring it down.
Believe when I say I want it that way. Tell me why.
Ain't nothing but a heartache.
Tell me why.
Ain't nothing but a mistake.
Tell me why.
I never wanna hear you say,
woo! I want it that way.
Oh, chills. It was number five. Number five killed my brother. Oh yeah, that's why we're here.
It's the best cold. It's the best cold open I've ever seen. I've never seen a better cold open.
Ever.
Hollywood and I sing this song a lot.
Yeah, I guess.
Especially like if we're both traveling to different places.
Right.
I will literally like sing a bar of it at in a airport. I'll be like, you are, you know, and like and I get back. He'll be wherever he is, you know, and he could be like in the rain with a camera, and he'll be like, "My one." I know. It's kind of our thing.
Yeah. Have you guys ever done it like on the plane, like where he's in the back and maybe like you're 3 or 4 seats in front?
Not yet.
But that's
I feel like
that's a good idea. So we actually want to do a shot-for-shot remake of the whole video with like the Diesel Jack Media crew, and we know that none of us can sing, but
no,
you know,
but you want to when you hear two grown men like that, really give it their
really
all. It
give
makes
it,
you want, like
really,
I wanted to
really
be a singer, just
really give it everything.
I was doing the, you know what I mean, like closing my eyes. I wanted to be you guys in that moment.
Yeah, well, Hollywood can kind of sing.
He's got a good voice. He's got a great radio voice too, by the way.
He does. Yeah,
solid.
97X BAM, the future of rock and roll.
So anyway. You're an interesting character, and your podcast is kicking butt right now.
Yeah, it's doing well.
Why do you think people listen to you?
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure that out. You know,
because you're not handsome.
They
no
do
offense.
though. They do though. I mean, he's not unhandsome.
But he's not handsome.
Yeah, he's not.
It's not like have you seen Eric's podcast?
Woo! Yeah. Like he's normally good looking.
Yes,
like
he's
Brandon Fraser between.
You know,
the movies.
he does look like Brandon Fraser.
Like a
hillbilly Brandon Fraser.
Yeah.
Like
Brandon Fraser's younger brother.
Yeah.
Like Brandon Fraser was like the quarterback, and it was like, "Oh, do you play football too, Eric?" I'm like, "Well, I'm a backup tight end on the JV team." You know, like.
Yeah.
I mean, not that bad.
Well,
maybe. Maybe.
Like the Wish.com of
the
Wish.com Brandon Fraser.
Brandon Fraser.
No, you're putting like we're joking around, but
like the Michael J. Fox.
But you've done a lot of shit. So like
a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Why'd you join the military?
Well, funny enough, I was working on a deep sea fishing boat at the time.
As so many of us
in the Northwest.
Right.
What were you fishing for?
No, I was St. Augustine, Florida. St. Augustine Beach, Florida. It was a
like
charter boat.
like marlin. Like,
no,
what are we going
sometimes,
for?
but
dolphin?
No, but that was dolphin, mahi, cobia was like a big kind of like it was mostly Canadians who came down to Florida that wanted to spend some money on a deep sea excursion.
Like I grew up fishing for stripers and bluefish. Yeah, because I'm a Northeast guy, and then the first time I went and hooked a dolphin, Like
Not flipper dolphin, you knuckleheads out there. The mahi.
Yeah,
dolphin
mahi,
fish.
yeah.
Dolphin fish. They're like blue and green, and they're very
beautiful
pretty.
fish.
Very, very pretty. The first time I hooked a dolphin, I'm just like reeling it in. Like I'm not even, because it doesn't have that fight of like a bluefish or a striper.
Right.
And like the guy on the charter's like, oh, you can you can let the, lighten up on the drag, let him take line or whatever. And I'm like, I feel like I don't need to. I'm just taking this guy in because this fish is like kind of a wuss.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
I mean, they flop around out of the water, which is kind of...
Yeah, I mean, they can shake the hook, but not if you just keep reeling.
No. Keep that pressure.
Like they come out of the water, I'm like, ha-ha!
Yeah. Yeah, not today.
But, yeah, why do you think dolphin fish are such wusses compared to, like, stripers and bluefish?
Probably just because they don't have a lot of muscle, Like, they're not as fat as, like, they're not, like, as heavy as a grouper, and they're not as muscly as a cobia.
Yeah.
But I think, like, cobia is probably one of the most fun fish, like that or tuna.
Yeah.
Like triple fins. I think cobia is like one of the most fun fish to catch.
I don't know if I've caught cobia.
They look like a big shark. That's what they look like. They look like a shark. They kind of look like between a shark and a catfish, but they're huge. They're like half the size of this.
I got to look one up. Like I'm literally
look them up, man. They're great, and they eat well too. If they don't have
where do you
worms,
are they bottom feeders?
Kind of part of they're part of the amberjack family, I believe. Might be wrong on that, but I think they're part of like Jack Cavels, amberjacks. Cobias, I think they might be in that family.
Oh, I've seen these guys.
Yeah.
I've never caught one.
They're great to catch. They put up a really good fight.
Are they good eating?
Cramps in the forearm. Yeah, really good eating. Yeah. And
What's
they have like less worms.
What's your favorite fish to eat?
Flounder.
Yeah, flounder's good.
Yeah. Stuffed flounder with like a lot of butter, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was working on a deep sea fishing boat, and 9/11 had happened like the year prior. And so a lot of the dudes that I graduated high school with were already like geared up. Now I had long hair, like really long hair. I'd surfed almost every single day of my life. I'd been on the ocean every single day of my life, never left really.
That was my childhood.
Yeah.
Not like my young adult life. Young adult life, I was in the military, but like my childhood was the water. First, like, growing up in Naples and then and then in New England.
Yeah.
So
yeah, so like, it was like my whole life. I didn't think I was ever going to venture out past the water.
Yep.
But I was on my way in, man. It was like 5 o'clock in the morning,
and you were like, "Man, I just want to sleep on the ground,
yeah,
in miserable places, and eat bags of processed food."
Right.
Don't forget in miserable weather.
In miserable weather.
In miserable weather. Yeah.
While people shoot at me.
And I don't know. The radio was on, and the Battle of Fallujah was like just taking place, and so they were like, "Troops are entering Fallujah, Iraq," and I was like,
and for some reason it was like an oldie time commentator was like, you see, troops are entering Fallujah.
There was a miter in the first degree. Next in the news, Fallujah. But I was like, man, I like instantly felt like a dirtbag. I was like, yo, I should not be getting on this boat right now. Like,
which is insane, though. You should be fishing.
Probably should have been.
Yeah.
But back then, you wanted to fight the terrorists that, took down the big buildings and everything. So that's what I was like. So
man, I wish I had a professional producer of this program instead of one that was always trying to steal the limelight.
When I don't have a mic, he gives me shit because I don't have a mic. And now that I've got a mic and I'm participating, he's still giving me shit. It's because I'm old, isn't it?
I got chills. It made me want to re-enlist, actually, when I heard that. Yeah, no, I just, I walked into the recruiter's office having no idea.
Hollywood just had a birthday.
Did he really?
Yeah.
46.
Yep. Nailed it.
46.
A little bit older.
So you walked into the recruiter's office.
Yeah.
I mean, did you like literally step off the boat and walk to the recruiter?
Yeah. No, like I was.
So you're still in flip-flops and sunburned hair.
Bro, fish guts on my shirt. Like just, how, I don't know, fish guts like really just like get in there.
It stays. You're not.
It stays.
You're not really washing it out. I mean, like it gets clean, but it's,
like you can see the scales in the t-shirt with the board shorts.
Yeah, and your fingers always smell of fish. I don't care.
No, the whole body stunk.
Yeah.
Like hair, it sticks and everything.
Yeah.
And I walked in and I was like, they're like, "Can we help you?" And I was like, I want to go to war. And they're like, "This is the National Guard." And I was like, I don't know what that means, but like, how do I go to war? And they were like, "What do you mean?" I was like,
"Sir, this is a Wendy's."
I was like, not only that, it wasn't even a recruiting station. It was a finance. It was like the National Guard finance armory.
Wow.
But it had a sign that said "Now hiring." So I was like, let's see what's this about. So I had no idea. Like, I had never thought about the military really at that point. I walked in.
So did you enlist at a National Guard finance?
And listen,
station?
they said they were like, it was crazy how it happened. Still to this day, I think I might have been like the fastest person to ever join the military.
Yep.
And you might not have actually joined. I mean, they might just.
Like, I didn't, no bonus. I like no bonus or anything, dude. I signed up and I was like, how do I get to war? And they were like, well, you could be, a Cav Scout. And I was like, what's that? And they're like, and YouTube wasn't a thing yet.
Yeah.
So they were like, just check this out. And they put in like a DVD. And I was like, yo, this is the military. They got DVDs. I was still on that VHS game,
Oh my God.
So they put in this DVD, and the first thing you see is like a ghillie suit and a dirt bike. And I'm like, that's what I got to do.
Yeah.
Still to this day, never seen a fucking dirt bike or ghillie suit. that does not exist. But they were like, you got to take an ASVAB. And this was like on a Friday. And I was like, cool. What's
an ASVAB?
Yeah, like, what is that? And they were like, did you graduate high school? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, when? I was like, 9 months ago. And they're like, you'll be fine. So I showed up. They drove me like an hour away, like in a van. Didn't know that it was an hour away. Like, I show up to this thing with a collared shirt and pants on. And they're like, get in this van. And I'm like, okay. Like,
he came back and he was missing a kidney and a spleen.
I was like, are we going to boot camp now? Like, how does this, what's going on here? So we drive an hour, and the guy's in his uniform, and I'm like staring him down. Still don't know what the National Guard is. Like, still don't.
So this is really the National Guard.
This is really the National Guard.
Are you sure?
I think. There was BDUs back then too. You know what I mean?
BDUs rock.
They were awesome. And so we get down to this place, and I take the test, and that was on a Monday, and on a Tuesday I get a call like that afternoon, and they were like, "Hey, you passed your ASVAB," and I was like, "Sweet, what do we do now?" And they're like, "We're gonna do a PT test with you," and I was like, "Great." So like that Wednesday I went back, did the PT test, passed. And then it was like within weeks, like 2 weeks, maybe not even like 10 days.
You were going to basic training.
I was going to basic training, and then I went straight from basic training to California.
Where were you at basic training?
Fort Knox, Kentucky.
California.
And I was the only National Guard dude there too.
Really?
Fort Knox. Yeah, like there was like maybe like 3 or 4 others, but they had gotten moved like to the tanker area.
Yep.
So like everybody was calling me a nasty girl and everything. And again, like I still didn't really quite understand.
You had no idea what they meant.
Like,
right?
I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I just know that I'm supposed to be going to war after this. And I'm telling everybody, I'm like, dude, I'm going to war. Like I signed up like small contract just to go to war and get the fuck out. And they were like, okay, dude, we'll see what happens. And I went to California.
Where? Irwin?
No. Pinion Canyon. It's like Colorado, California, Pinion Canyon. Yeah, training site.
Never heard of it.
They were doing a war game out there.
Okay.
And
So you got put right into the war game. No training, nothing. Just, okay, here you
No,
go.
I did the basic training, and I did the AIT, and then like literally went straight over there. And then when it came back, straight to hurricane duty. So we left Pinion Canyon because a hurricane was hitting.
Yep.
Came back, did the hurricane thing, and then just deployed to Afghanistan. But one way deployed, I got attached to 20th Special Forces Group. They were like, hey, we need your guy with the best PT score and your best shooter.
And that was you?
Or
That guy was sick.
Yeah, that guy was sick.
That guy was sick, and so was his backup.
And we need him to not have a family. And they were like, we got a dude.
We got the right guy.
We got the right guy. So I ended up going with these guys, and probably, have you ever seen the movie 13th Warrior?
Yeah.
Yes.
I
You
felt
learned how
like-
to speak a strange language?
I felt like I
just
did.
by-
I felt like I did. But nobody talked to me for like 3 weeks. I'm just with these bearded fucking guys. Didn't know what Special Forces was.
Yep.
Didn't have a clue what Green Berets meant. I just know I'm with these like bearded fucking Neanderthals. I'm like 130 pounds, soaking wet. And they have no rules. I'm still trying to abide by rules. Not sure if I'm going to tell on anybody or not, because I'm like, man, this kind of seems like everything I was told we're not supposed to be doing. Like, it seems like you guys are just doing all of it, And it was like
That necklace of ears seems a
does.
little out of.
It seems sus, as they say.
Well, you're lucky
No
they
cap.
didn't kill you and eat you. And,
Right? I thought it was coming. Like, it could have happened. What was that movie? That was the
Alive?
No, it was Sean Penn. No, not Sean
no.
Penn. I know what you're talking about, though. I can't remember the name of the movie now. Requiem.
Requiem.
Yeah, it was something Requiem
I haven't seen
with Charlie
Sheen.
I have not seen it.
Oh,
It's nothing.
you've
Nothing
seen
good.
it. Oh, Apocalypse Now.
Oh, yes, I have seen
Yeah.
that. Of course I've seen Apocalypse.
Everybody's seen
Everybody's seen it.
Apocalypse Now.
You
except the
guys, you
people
guys
in
are
our
like
office.
Requiem. Like
Isn't it Apocalypse Now Requiem? or
No,
something
you're
like that?
thinking Heart
A
of
reboot?
Darkness, you're
little Joseph Conrad.
Oh my God, you're thinking Apocalypse Now Redo.
Oh, that's That's it, Redo. Requiem, Redo. Same thing.
I mean, I was going down the Requiem for
Requiem
a Dream.
for a Dream.
And I was
So
like, I don't remember that in that film, you know?
But yeah, no, so like I was with these guys and like nobody talked to me, and then finally like one dude came over and he was like, hey man, what's your deal? And I was like, I don't know, man, I really don't know. Like I've been in your gun turret for fucking like 3 weeks now, like traveling around this country and, you know, doing some pretty crazy
What
shit.
did they have you doing? Like, what
Just
was
riding the gun turret.
What was your That was your purpose?
That was it. Like I was riding in the gun. They would stop. Dude, sometimes they would leave me in the gun turret by myself and they would just fucking haul ass. Like they would pull off behind a berm.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, you
Man
stay
the-
here with the trucks. They would lock up the other truck, put the gun down in it, and they would be like, you know, call us if you need us.
Man the
And
gun.
Call us if you need us.
and they would just beat feet into the desert.
Just in the
I'm
middle
just
of
like,
Afghanistan.
Are you?
It's not even the
Is this
crickets.
the truth?
This is the truth, dude. This is
Call us if you
2005.
need us.
Yeah, like you know how to get a hold of us. Not really. Not really. I don't. And so yeah, they would just book it out into the desert. Yo, at one time, we were going to this fire base. And
where
IED
in
hit between
Afghanistan
each other. This
is
was because we were all over the place. So like,
Yeah.
we were going like between Jalalabad and Gardez a lot. And in this particular case, I think we were in like pretty close to Tagab, like between Tagab Valley and Jalalabad. I don't know if you know where Tagab is, but it's like Bagram, Tagab, Jalalabad. And we were somewhere out there. Maybe it was like called like Kosafi or something. I can't really remember. And but we were out there and we were on our way to a fire base, and an IED went off between the two trucks.
And what trucks were these?
Just gun, like barely armored gun trucks.
Got it.
Like the type you see in the museum where there's no back to it.
Yeah.
You know, and they just had like bullshit plating. This is 2005.
Yeah.
Remember, YouTube didn't come out till like 2006.
I get it.
So so this like IED goes off and it bends back the bumper, and a dude launches a RPG from a berm, but it goes over the trucks. And so we go about another click up to this fire base, and we're calling it in, you know, and the guys are doing all the things, and I'm like, you know, rotating this 50 cal, like trying to find something to shoot. Of course, there was nothing. So we get there, and you know, it's all group guys.
Yeah.
And this guy's got his cut off tiger stripe shorts on, big red beard, you know, no shirt, you know, kind of just a big huskier kind of guy.
Yeah.
And he was like, how was the ride in? And he was like, man, we just like a click down the road, man. We just got ambushed. We, you know, and they're all talking. He's like, really, where? He's like, pulls out a map, slaps down. He's like, show me where. Well, he's like, was it this berm? Which side was it from? Blah, blah, blah. The dude runs back, grabs a sniper rifle, like a Remington 700, I think is what it was, jumps on a four-wheeler, and he's in Teva sandals and just bounces. And I'm just sitting there going like, where the fuck is he going? Just gone.
By
Bounces.
himself.
By himself. Out. And I said, this is fucking lawless, man. I got to do this. I want to be these guys. You know what I mean? Like, I, you know, so I ended up staying with them for, I don't know, like 6 months.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I got to, like, what is this? Show me. And they just, they started teaching me like all the acronyms, and just like this guy took me under his wing. It was just like 13th Warrior, man. It's like we were sitting around the campfire, and he would just be like, you know, you got to remember this acronym, you got to remember that acronym, and you got to do this, and land nav, and this and that. And so I came home and I went to selection. I got selected, and I started the Q course again, like still not really knowing even what the military was really even about.
Yeah.
You know, now at this point I was like 20, 21.
Yeah.
And just way too young to be there too.
Yep.
You know, and I went through and got selected, and I started the Q course, and it was just, you know, I've always been the guy, Nick, where it's like, this is where everybody starts. And some people climb kind of like this, you know, maybe like a 60-degree angle. Some people are really smart and they hit that 90, you know.
They just soar.
I soar, but I start way down here. So even though I soar, and like everybody's like, man, he really runs quick, I'm still like way below the line of where I even should be. So although I do learn fast, I'm starting way down, like
I got you.
reading, writing, math. Like I'm basically retarded. And so like I'm going through the Q course and I'm learning a lot really fast, but like I'm still not caught up to these 33 Purple Heart sniper veterans, you know. And I never felt like I ever belonged, but I kept trugging along, you know. And so I get to small unit tactics phase, right, which is like the Ranger School, the Green Beret program. And before that, you had to go through WLC BNOC, you know. You had to go through
what is WLBC BNOC?
Basic leadership course, non-commissioned officer course. Yeah. And but so I did this on the first special warfare
You need it
side.
to make E6.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And so I did this through the Green Beret side of things. So it was always a little bit harder than like if you were to do it conventionally, you know, like they really want, you know, that attention to detail, perfect uniform, you know, plus you're doing the Nasty Nick every fucking day and you're doing the not Nasty Nick Palmisano. That's what they should call
Nasty
it.
Nasty Nick is an obstacle course.
Right. Famous, pretty famous, I guess, right?
Pretty
Like
famous.
maybe
Pretty
one of the
famous.
most famous.
Did they name it after you?
Darby
The
Queen
Darby
and the
and
Nasty Nick
Nasty
are the
Nick.
two.
Did they name it after you?
They did not name it after me. They did not. I'm sure it was a much tougher Nick, better looking, etc. than me.
Yeah. And that was shitty because I think we did it like every morning for like the whole week. You know, the whole 3 weeks, whatever you're there. It was like every day it was like, we're on the obstacle course and then we're going to start PT. And you're like, God, you know, that obstacle course, everything's like 40 feet. Yeah. All the road climbs are like 40 feet. So like it sucks to do it. It sucks to do it. And I don't like heights. So, you know, doing that like stairway to heaven thing and throwing your leg up over, you know, doing that every day.
That's my, that was, as a short guy, you and I are, you're a little taller than I am.
Maybe.
But like as a short guy, that obstacle sucks.
Yeah, it sucks.
And I was a
You were in shape.
I was in shape.
I've seen the pictures.
I was in shape back then. So like
now.
obstacle courses were a joke for me then, but that obstacle sucked because I was so short that when you get to the top, because they keep getting farther apart, it's like a ladder.
Right.
You kind of have to like almost jump, like you're releasing and like, you know, like to get over.
Yeah. You have to. It's like a leap of faith for sure.
Yeah, and if you miss, I mean,
you fall.
And in the water on the Nasty Nick, on the water obstacles, it's so cold. Yeah. You know, and being a Florida boy, I'm fine with the water, but man, that cold water would take your breath away. I don't know where they shipped in the water for that.
We need more singing in this episode. You need to get on board with our singing.
I just tried.
Yeah, but it was slow. I wanted you right there. I wanted you like the second you said that. We should have been harmonizing.
So I make it a small unit tactics phase finally, and you know, like, dude, that's like that's not a dummy course, right? You gotta have some kind of brains, and this is where I lack all skill, like, you know, the memorization. Oh yeah, it was terrible. You know, trying to op order, memorizing, you know, regurgitating, and memorizing. I can't
imagine going through a course like that as a new guy, which is essentially what you were.
Right.
And not a new guy like somebody that's going in to be a lieutenant or something. Like they have spent at least their college experience learning the op order and practicing all that BS and not BS.
And I'm 21 years old pitching these op orders to like 35-year-old.
And you were fishing for officers. Dolphin, you know, like a year ago,
right? And surfing and like doing all these things. So I knew right then that the only way I was going to pass this course was the peer evaluations. Everybody's going to like me.
Yep.
And how do you get everybody to like you? You carry their shit. So I got really good, really fast. I knew that the one thing that got me through selection was like that kind of like retard strength where you're just like, I can put my head down and I can go forever. I can't do it very fast, but I can go forever. So I just started carrying everybody's equipment. Like, who wants to be the radio guy? Me. You know, because nobody wants that job. Who wants to be the gunner? Me.
It sucks.
Yeah, it does
suck.
But you know, at 20 years old and these dudes like having wives and children and like are second guessing their whole life decisions at these points. Yeah. Like I was still like, I can do this. Yeah. So just give me that.
Let the kid do it.
Yeah.
You know?
And so everybody.
It's true. It's true. It's like
like it's one of those things where everybody has to pull their weight in some regard.
Right. And that's how I found it. And so I succeeded at that. And so I made it through the whole 9 weeks and I appeared third highest in the class. You know, which is great. You know? And so you have this thing called a murder board at the end where it doesn't matter if you make it through the end or not. You still have to go to the murder board, which is like a colonel, lieutenant colonel, a sergeant major, and they tell you all the good things. Your cadre kind of like sells you. Like, here's the good things Eric did. Here's the bad things he did. Here's his red cards. Here's his green cards. Like, these are all the things. And then they say, like, ask you a couple questions, and then you pass, you don't pass. Yeah. So I get there, and they start, you know, rattling off, man. Like, hey, we did this 1 9-mile movement, and we weighed in because we had the University of Florida. They had some scientists, like, weighing our shit and checking our oxygen levels. And they were like, we had a 9-mile movement, and the average ruck weight was like 111 pounds, and Eric's weighed in at like 117. And we all took bets against him that he wasn't going to make the movement because he packed it, and he made the whole movement and conducted himself in the firefight appropriately, yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, yeah, it's me, man. Like, and so they get done with the speech, and the sergeant major goes, you know what I hear is we got a pack mule. And this isn't an organization that needs pack mules. We need fucking leaders. I haven't heard one word about his leadership. And then the cadre was like, well, every time we put him in a leadership position, he would pass it off to somebody else. And we were trying to give him more leadership opportunities, and he would pass them down to somebody else.
Damn.
And so I'm like, wait, what's going on? Like, let's bring back the good stuff, guys.
Yeah.
You know, and so they were like, well, you know, if we were to say to be here on Monday, would you start over? And I was like, yeah. Thinking like this is part of that game. I've read the books, dude. You're not going to make me do this whole fucking thing again.
Wrong.
Yeah. They were like, we'll see you on Monday. And so I go back to the tent and everybody's celebrating, you know, because there was a failure tent and a non-fail tent. And I got sent back to the non-fail tent because I wasn't never to
Failed,
return.
but you were coming back.
But I was coming back. And so everybody's like, yeah. And I'm like, no. And I tell them, they're like, dude, that's crap. They're just testing you, bro. There's no way they're going to do this, bro. You just show up on Monday morning. That's all they want to see is that you would show up. I showed up Monday morning and they're like, we're going to introduce your class leader. It's going to be Corporal Eric Tansey. And I'm like, you know, your class leader's always a captain or above, you know. And I'm like, oh no. And I was the class leader for the whole second iteration.
Wow.
And I got done with the second iteration of SUT back to back. And they were like, you know, you were a shit leader in the first time and you peered third highest in the class. You were the leader the entire time now and you peered almost last. And I was like, and they were like, what do you have to say about it? And I just said, like, I don't know what you want to hear from me. I'm doing absolutely the best I can in all of this. And if you give me an opportunity, I'll do it a third time. I think I can narrow it down. They're like, if we send you to SEER school, you think you could find somewhere in the middle? And I was like, yes. And they're like, all right, we'll see you at SEER. And I cried. I was like the only person happy to go to SEER.
You cried?
Yeah, I was crying. I was.
Yeah.
I felt like I had
Tears of
graduated the Q
happiness?
course.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just
That's good.
stoked,
Better than tears of, loserness.
Yeah. So I got there, and then I graduated SEER, and then I was in language school. And at that time, I was living with some dudes that were defrauding the government, and I got pulled out for an investigation during language school. And I just graduated SEER, and I thought I would pull that hole. I was focused on my area of responsibility, and they were like, "That doesn't fly here."
Did you know they were
that.
defrauding the government?
I was focused on my area of responsibility. And at the time, I thought that's what they wanted to hear. And the sergeant major of First Special Warfare Institute called me in. And he was like, "Listen, this is not a game. You have to tell CID something. You didn't do this. You're not defrauding the government. Tell them what you know." And I was just like, I was focused on my area. He's like, "That's how it's going to be." So I got put on probation. I got sent back to 20th group on probation. So now I go back to a team.
So you've gone through everything but fucking language school and Robin Sage.
Yeah. And I was almost done with language at that point. And I was doing really well.
What was your language?
Spanish, of course. Okay. Yeah. And so I go back to my group and I go to waterborne operations and so I get waterborne certified, which is just Zodiac boat training, extra helocasting, things like that. And I come back to the group and they were like, "Hey, we're working with a SEAL team out in California again." This was Fort Irwin, and they're like, "You're gonna be going on there. We're gonna be doing link up operations and practicing link ups, tactical link ups and whatnot." And so we're you're gonna go out there and meet your team out there, meet your group out there. So I go out there, and of course everybody's in civilians. I'm in civilians. We do a lot of stuff. And then towards the end, the guys are like, "Let's get a picture, with all of our berets on." And so I pull out my little Marine beret. They're all like, "Yo, come on, Tansey, go get your beret." And I was like, "No, I don't have a green beret. I have a maroon beret." And they're like, "No, what?" And I was like, how are you here with us and no green beret? And I was like, "And I'm a corporal." And they're like, "Shut up." Because at this point I'd been to airborne, waterborne operations, SEER, CSC, WLCB.
So did you not have your beret because?
Well, yeah,
I didn't graduate.
Because I know, but because there's a issue with your clearance now because of what's going on.
No, he still has. He has to. You have to.
Those are the two classes.
You have to finish language school,
classes,
and then you go to Robin Sage, which is like. It's like the final. It's like a fake war.
Right.
Yeah. And it's like hard to fail it. I mean, the most people that fail are the officers.
Yeah.
They're the ones that
but what I don't understand is how are they allowing you to continue if they haven't let you finish school?
It's just like because I was on probation. Like I was still in group. Like I still had my.
Oh, so you weren't in trouble. You were just on probation because of what your roommates did.
And because I was pulled out of language school for like 4 months for the CID investigation. Like 4 months I was on pins and needles. Know if I'm going to like military jail or and there's no way to internet it.
The
either.
early 2000s military is not the current military.
Right.
There was a lot more flexibility in things.
Yeah. And so what these guys were defrauding, it wasn't really fraud in my opinion either. I guess my opinion doesn't matter. It's what the law says. But they were basically, they bought like a massive house and they were renting out each individual room of the house for the total basic housing allowance. So they know that these troops, they knew that the special warfare students weren't going to be able to stay on post.
And then they were kicking it back.
And they were getting all this money.
Kicking it back to people.
Right. Which is more unethical than fraud in my, when you're 20 fucking years old, that's what you think. I mean, now that I'm older, I guess I kind of understand where the problem was. But yeah, so I went, and then and I was supposed to go back to language school, and then the class was full, and then I went back another time, but I didn't have an updated flight physical, and just the powers of being. Then at that time I met my now wife, and my wife and she was just a girl that I was hooking up with, but she was like, I would never date or marry a special forces dude, period.
Where did you meet her?
At a wedding, at a Green Beret wedding.
What?
She was in France. She was on vacation from France here.
Oh, she's French.
No, she was American, but she lived in France. And she
so she knew about the lifestyle.
Yeah, she knew because that was a Green Beret wedding. Her best friend was marrying a Green Beret, and so she knew. And she didn't want any part of that.
Well, how come?
Well, my wife is like she got her master's degree at like 20. She was teaching at NC State at 23. She's like, I mean, really, she's a genius. I mean, she reads like 3 books a week. Probably the smartest human being I've ever known.
Which leads us to ask.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Well,
I was going to say, Hollywood's right here. That's
opposites attract, man. But yeah, I mean,
that's absolutely not true, though. They may attract, but it's always a nightmare at the end.
Well, we're married now 14 years.
He's an intellectual.
I know he pretends. No, I know that. I totally get it.
He likes to play the dumb.
He does.
He's an intellectual.
You totally do, bro.
Yeah,
totally do.
She said,
like, gosh, I don't know how I did it,
Well, but no, really, if you talk to anybody, like seriously, go talk to me. They'll be like, yeah, that dude is fucking full blown. Like, go talk to any of the people I manage at my distillery.
So you meet your wife, and you decide that like the dream of special forces is
fighting soldiers from
the war
the
was
sky.
Dying down. Yep. The war wasn't cool, and my best friend at the time, who had started this, now we were probably pushing 2008.
Okay.
And I think they just had like the most peaceful year in Iraq in 2008. But my best friend, who I met in special operations, he was a combat controller. He had just tried out for Tier 1 for Delta, and he'd made it. And so like he and I were still best friends, and like I lived with him for a little while, and we're still best friends to this day. He owns a distillery with me, and he's still active duty.
Yeah, not only that, but you had at this point you had done your thing.
Yeah, and he was burned out, and he and I were big wine guys. Like we, between training and deploying.
What do you drink? What's your wine?
Oh, you give me like a time of day and give me like a season, and I'll tell you the wine.
Hollywood, hit them.
11 a.m.
Okay.
Early fall.
Okay. 11 a.m. We're getting started early.
Hey,
you just said
you
France,
said
man.
Give it time.
You said France.
So let's go. What do you got?
Okay, so and it's fall. You said
fall, early fall.
Probably like Sancerre.
A little Christmas in the air.
Sancerre, maybe probably something like that.
When would you drink a Malbec?
Never.
Pork pig dinner, like a pig picking pork dinner, like any kind of, hot dog night or.
What is your go-to sitting around the house wine if you're just,
I don't have one.
You don't?
I mean, if I'm feeling like if it's
not
cold,
TJ
maybe
Swan
like a buttery
or,
Chardonnay.
Not TJ Swan or MD 2020 or Strawberry Hill or any of those.
Yeah, Strawberry
wines.
Hill probably, a little Mad Dog.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I don't, because I drink, I'm a sommelier. And I'm a certified specialist of wine.
We've talked about this before.
Yeah, I'm like one of 600.
Well, we haven't talked about it on the air.
We have not talked about it on the air.
Well, that's the hardest thing I've ever done. Out of everything I've ever done is getting my CSW diploma. That's the longest I've ever studied for something and the hardest I've ever studied for something. And I did that while I was a cop. But yeah, so I drink like kind of everything. Yeah, dude, in my cop car, studying wine.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, all my flashcards and stuff are all
sommelier
cop. But yeah, I mean, that was kind of so I said like, what are your goals in life? Because she was kind of a piece of shit in France. Like she was living a pretty
bohemian,
free lifestyle in France. She was just kind of like lawless, testing out a couple of drugs here and there and like doing these things, and I was, a lawless dirtbag, 24-year-old, almost special forces dude. So I'm, putting IVs of Jack Daniels in my, straight to the veins.
Almost special forces. That's almost a good book name.
That would be a great book. And then,
no, you're right.
She said, I want to settle down and I want to have
name.
kids and I want to homeschool and I want to be a great mother. And I said, dude, I want to be a good dad. And I also want to
I like how you downgraded it. Like, I don't want to be great.
I don't want to be great.
But I would like to be good.
Like a mediocre dad would be sweet. So yeah, dude. So then, I was like, what if I got out of the military and like we got married and like we made these dreams come true? Like I could do that for us. And she was like, okay. So I was like, well, give me 6 months. Let me get out. My ETS. She moved up here and started teaching at NC State. I get out. I call her up.
So you're dating and she's in France.
No, we weren't really even dating. Like technically, We were just kind of like fucking when she's in town. But then,
Well, we'll be right back with a commercial from our...
Are you ready to take your career to new heights? If you've ever been curious about the world of renewable energy and want a hands-on, impactful career, then we've got something exciting to share with you. Introducing Tower Training Academy, your gateway to becoming a skilled wind turbine maintenance professional. With the world's shift towards clean energy, wind turbines are sprouting up everywhere, and they need experts like you to keep them running smoothly. Tower Training Academy offers comprehensive courses that cover everything you need to know about maintaining wind turbines. They offer courses working on wind turbines, manual handling, OSHA training certification, confined space rescue, trauma, CPR, fire safety, and more. And the best part? Wind turbine maintenance professionals are in high demand. You'll be part of a growing industry that's making a real difference for our planet and future generations. So if you're ready to climb the career ladder while harnessing the power of the wind, visit their website at www.towertrainingacademy.com and explore their course offerings. And now for my mandatory dad joke about wind. Why did the wind apply for a job? It heard they were looking for someone with a lot of gusto. I told my friend a joke about wind, but it went right over their head.
oh, am I allowed to cuss?
Yeah,
on this show?
you can.
Yeah, she was. I took her to see Chili's and then Soul Passion of the Christ, and then I just like sealed the deal after that.
A Chili's?
Yeah,
You took
In
her to
Passion of the
Chili's?
Christ with Jim Caviezel.
yeah.
I think the last time I went to a Chili's was like high school or something. Maybe college.
Chili's is only overshadowed by
Yeah, college.
the
Definitely
Outback,
college.
the worst restaurant on the planet.
Applebee's is the worst.
Outback has a quality. They give you a quality meal at a reasonable price. And I don't want to go there.
Okay, I'm about to
I
say.
don't want to go there. But
I was on my way to Charlotte to do a TIFF event, and I stopped at Outback on the way down there like at 10 o'clock. It's the worst meal I've ever had.
No.
It was the worst.
That's not possible. Did
It
you get
was.
a steak?
Yeah.
Would you?
It was horrible.
I think they usually have a decent like.
It must have been
You know
because
what
it
the
was
most
10 o'clock.
overrated restaurant like that is though? Is Red Lobster.
Oh my!
So
Stop.
overrated. Really?
Yeah,
Aside from the biscuits,
as
like
The lobster feast is the best thing on the planet.
As a New Englander,
I know. That's
I-
what I'm
Dude,
saying.
it's
Red
garbage.
That's why I'm saying that.
I can't stand Red Lobster.
I've gone one
I'm
time.
always disappointed
I've
when I
gone
go.
one time, and it was because I think it was like in college, or no, it might have even been like a wrestling trip or something, and it was like that's where we went.
Yeah.
And it was like
Because obviously you won.
The
what am I-
biscuits alone.
Yeah.
The biscuits
Red
alone.
Lobster, my
come on,
treat.
Come on. The
Yeah,
biscuits.
what am I
the
doing
biscuits.
here?
Yeah.
You know, like why am I?
It's like Joe's Crab Shack. You know
no,
what I
it's
mean?
it's like you actually have New England shame.
Yeah.
You know, like you're like, man, I hope nobody from New England
Right.
sees me here.
I can
Yeah.
appreciate that and
You
respect
know,
that.
like
yeah.
if somebody like from Massachusetts like broke down and like was like, hey, can I use the phone in here? And they were like, wait, you're a New Englander. It'd be like, I feel like that would be the end of me. You can't be
Yeah.
seen.
You
Can't be seen in Red Lobster.
Last night, Nick Palmisano was seen at Red
So
Lobster at 26.
I got out and I moved. You know, she was teaching at NC State.
Yep.
She was teaching French.
So you guys
And I came up to Raleigh.
were not really any
So
kind of
she-
romantic thing going on at
So
all.
you
were just
left the
hooking up.
military based on
Right.
this
Isn't
girl
that
that you
stereotypical?
weren't even like really dating.
Isn't that like kind of like how it always goes?
You must
though?
have really liked her though.
I did. Well, I just saw something in her that was like different than like all the other girls. Like she
Yeah.
had goals.
Yeah.
at 20
had
at
aspirations.
23.
Yeah.
You know, that were like more family oriented.
I feel like you're playing it down though. I feel like you
There's
were
something
smitten.
missing. There's something you're
was,
not
I
telling
was.
us.
I'm telling you. So but here's the funny part though. Is I
Okay.
came up here and she
He's
had a
playing
boyfriend.
He's playing it cool.
He is.
I came up here and she had a boyfriend.
No.
So I get out 6 months later and I'm like, hey, I made it to Raleigh. Like I got out. Like I said,
Oh, so
I would.
you really weren't together.
No, she would not date somebody in the military. It was like it was a no go.
Oh, so it was that was it.
It was it.
But you were still you guys
So
were still
I
banging.
mean, I gotta
Sometimes.
I gotta
yeah,
say
whenever I can meet up with her somewhere.
so that was okay. She was happy to bang you.
Yeah, for
but,
sure.
But she wasn't going to date you.
No. She's got standards, man.
I don't know what to say.
I don't know
right
what to
now.
say about
I don't know
that
what to say right now.
Was that bad?
Well, what if she'd gotten pregnant and now she had this army guy's
Which is
child,
crazy because my pullout game is super weak. Obviously, we have 5 kids now.
right?
But
That's obvious.
But yeah, so I came up here and she had a boyfriend. She was like, "Oh my god, you got out!" And I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Oh, I kind of hate to break it to you, but like, I kind of have a boyfriend." And I was like, "Fuck it, well, don't worry about that. Like, I'll take care of that, dude." And Yeah, I did. I went to like the restaurant that he managed at, and I was like, "Hey, man, listen. So I got out of the military. Like, I met this girl. I got out of the military.
Thanks for keeping her safe for me.
You guys are gonna put this to a close." And he was like, "No, what?" And he was like, "Fuck." I was like, "Look, you're a restaurant manager. Like, you're not gonna provide for her like I can. So just calm it down." You know, we had this like very awkward conversation. And then like a week later,
What restaurant did he work at? Red Lobster?
No, it was like a French restaurant actually. Yeah, it was like a French restaurant in Raleigh.
So you broke up with him.
I didn't break up with him. I broke them up.
I mean, but like that's a bold move. I've never heard of anyone actually doing that.
Dude, if you want it, you gotta fight for it.
We're so different because I would have been like, "Oh shit, you got a boy." Well,
Fuck it.
I'm gonna move on.
No, I was invested, dude. I was invested. So she was like,
Dude, he got out of the military. He couldn't
Well, I
just
asked her
move
first.
on. He couldn't just
I
move
asked her
on.
first. I said, "Who do you want to be with? Like, if you could choose between, like, if if you had me not in the military, And she was like, "Oh, obviously, I would like to be with you. Like, you're a pretty rad guy." And I was like, "All right, fair enough. Like, I'll take care of the breakup part. Don't worry about it. Like, I got you." Dude, now we've been married for like 13 years. She's like we're best friends. We got 5 rad kids.
I'm not throwing any shade. I've just never heard an origin story quite like this before.
That's it, dude.
But
We're going to get her on the show next week and get her side of the
She's
story.
incredible on a podcast because she's an introvert. Have you seen that podcast where the girl's like really serious and she's like, "So you're just like a mediocre."
She's hilarious.
Dude, that is my wife.
She's hilarious.
100%. Like,
she's hilarious. I think she's gone too far a couple times for me. Like where I'm like, all right. Like, because she kind of like ruins the bit, but for the most part, I think she nails it.
She nails it. But that's my wife, like naturally.
Shaq actually played it back at her pretty well.
He's so good.
He's so good.
God, I would love to get him on my podcast, like as a cop,
But did you see?
Yeah.
Like
I mean, I only saw the reels.
Yeah, me too. I'm not listening to like 4 hours or whatever of them, but like
he's funny, man.
Like, so her whole thing is this one. What's her name?
I can't remember what her name is.
Doesn't matter.
And she's like, I follow her Instagram. She's like rad in general, like great mom, like loves her kids, like seems like she's a pretty good wife or girlfriend, whatever she is.
No idea.
But like she seems
I don't know anything about
She
her.
seems like very like not like she's very humble.
I'm uninterested in like the background.
She's always got no makeup on.
But she's like a pretty little blonde girl.
Right.
Yeah. And her whole thing is like she's emotionless.
Yeah.
And she asks.
And she's a low-key bitch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So she'd be like, "So you worked on Hollywood films?
Yeah, I did.
Why do they call you Hollywood?"
That was my call sign.
But you never like produced anything in Hollywood that was like really cool?
Only like 15 movies.
Only 15?
Only 15.
Like I know producers that have done 30.
Yeah, I've worked on about 375 though.
Any of them good that I've heard of?
The Insider, Russell
Never heard of
Crowe,
it. Must not have been very
Michael
good.
Mann,
Nope.
Al Pacino,
Never heard of her.
The Rock, Scorpion King.
That
Scorpion,
was a B
The Rock.
movie at best.
It was.
That's how she
Okay,
goes, right?
I'm gonna chime in on that. Was a terrible film.
That was a B movie at best. No, but that's how she
Scorpion
does it.
King?
She like,
It was a terrible movie because it didn't have a script.
but like what
just
gets
shot
me is
Did you hear that?
What?
Yeah, Scorpion King didn't have a script. The Rock was in The Mummy, the second Mummy or
Yeah.
third Mummy. He got such a huge reaction. We started making this film about him with no script. They had no script. Every day they were writing the script because he was such a big hit at the end of.
I'm always amazed that. So this is like
Steven Summers was the director, I think.
But this is the kind of thing, like I know we're switching gears completely.
We're going to come back because he is very good.
He's on fire. He's on fire.
And he's good at bringing us back.
But Hollywood producers really don't value the creative team, and they don't think about writing as meaningful.
Well, because they've been talking to you about a project,
and
it's like they don't really care if it's really anywhere near what it's supposed to be.
They do not care. They do not care.
Oh, it's a great story, but we don't really care about the story. We're just going to make everything up.
I got a friend who just wrote like sex novels, romance novels.
So I'll just say, I just want to tell you.
She says the same thing. Every time she submits a book, they're like, "It's a great story, but we don't want to hear about the story. We just want more sex."
We just want, So I'll just give you an example. Okay. So, I've been approached to write a script or be part of writing a script. I don't know if I really don't want to do it, but I've been approached to write a script about what went down the waning days of Afghanistan, right? And a couple people have done this, and so my interest in it is not really for me. It's that there are a whole bunch of guys that really they don't have the ability to get their story out, and they won't do it on their own.
Right.
And I want to make sure people know, like,
That story.
like the PJs, you know, the pararescue men that were, you know, going way out of bounds,
Yeah.
helping people. Like, no one knows their story. No one's going to care because it's like, it's over, and no one likes to talk about Afghanistan. Those guys, like, you know, Sean Herlihy and his team, like, they did a ton. So I want to tell that story. And then, you know, two guys that are not, they're just not well-known people, like, where everybody knows that Tim was there.
Sure.
But Tim has, you know, he's made it clear over and over again. Like, I was just a member of the team. The team leader was this guy, Sean G. And so, like, I'm trying to write, you know, if I do this, my intention is I want to tell their story, right? So, you know, I give them, like, an outline of what the story would look like. And, you know, I get notes back. And listen, like, they're it's all well-meaning.
Yeah.
But, like, they wrote a scene where it's like the, you know, supposed to be like real life stories. So I kind of started with little vignettes of each person in their military life, how they're tied to Afghanistan. And, like, they combined it into one scene where they're all in the same unit. And I'm not joking. They have Sean's character.
Right.
Halo jumping into, like, an ambush.
Hell
like there's a firefight.
Right.
And then he halos into the ambush.
Yes.
And is like,
Does it start off
it
in
saves
their
them.
pro life where they're going over the bridge and he jumps out of the convertible into the ocean?
Dude, it's and
Navy SEALs?
And I was like, hey, listen.
That's not what happened.
So I can understand things. I'm not an idiot. I know that stories have to change for Hollywood. And I'm like, if we need to make everyone, you know, part of the same unit and put their timetable at the same time and kind of blend stories, that's okay. I get it. This is a creative work. It's based on a true story.
Right.
It's not. But like
Halo.
Like, I mean, even jumping, like, no one's jumping into
Maybe
an
like a
ambush.
little air assault, maybe. You know, like,
maybe
just fast roping into
or
Bagram or
maybe like a helicopter just kind of touches down and like
you run off, maybe.
Yeah,
like in reality.
Yeah, like in real life, maybe.
But you know, but it's not anyone's fault. Like, people are well-meaning, but the thing is,
well, nobody really wants to tell the stories how they really are anymore. Like, we're so used to just salacious, sensational, over the top stuff that it's like when you try to tell a real story, people are kind of like, cool, but like,
but what if,
you know, right?
Like, it has to be bigger.
Right, it has to be bigger. It has to be like crazier. But you know, some of these stories are just incredible, just the way they are. You know, like the story you're trying to tell. It's a pretty fucking good story. You know what I mean? Like,
well, it's an interesting thing though, like, because you see a lot of people in the way that, like, I think it's social media and it's we are fed so many things that so many people feel like whatever they're doing is not enough.
Yeah.
And so they have to stretch it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Like
the fake plane pictures, like, look at me, I'm on a private plane, type deal, you know?
Yeah, just
like look at this Lamborghini that's not really
it's
mine.
not mine. Like,
you know?
why are you doing that? Like, you don't, that doesn't
And that's
matter.
a lot of the influencers, you know?
Yeah.
So you tell the French restaurant guy.
Anyway, yeah.
See
No. We're going back to that. My wife's going to be so mad when
All
she
right.
sees it.
So, French restaurant
she doesn't
guy.
care. No, so she broke up with him, man, and then...
I mean, you broke up with him.
I broke up with him.
You started
Yeah.
You put the doubt in his mind, and she just finished the deal.
Yeah.
So you
And I
guys,
became a cop.
you guys are in your mid-20s?
Yeah, I was 28 at this point.
So she didn't
She
want
was
you to be SF, but she
she's-
was like, "Yeah, be a cop."
Be a cop? Really?
I mean, it was a compromise. So I got out to be a wine salesman and realized really quickly within like 6 months, I was a shitty salesman. And so like I told her, I was like, look, I'm not going to be successful at this. Like, I am not a,
But
I know.
Are you a sommelier at this point?
No, I wasn't, but I was studying to be.
Got it.
I wanted to be. And so like a sommelier, it's like sommelier, not so much, but certified specialist wine, I mean, it's more or less like a 10-year, 8-year kind of commitment.
No
you know what I
shit.
mean? Like, you don't just wake up and say like, I want to become a certified specialist wine. I mean,
What's the fastest
It's
you think I can
insane.
do it?
You? I mean, if you wanted to like get a divorce and like not pay any attention to your kids, you could probably get it done in a year, 2 years, but you would have to just like not do anything else but immerse yourself in wine. You know, it's winemaking, viticulture, wine theory. It's, you know, white wine, red wine, sweet wine, fortified wine, sparkling wine, still wine. It is tough, especially when you're like a certified, like when you're a certified special wine, like everybody wants to come to you because they think that you know a lot because you kind of know more than most. But yeah, people like say like the most ridiculous thing. But you know, everybody consumes wine differently, and my whole take was.
But that's true. You're right.
My whole take was like, who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't expect everybody to appreciate wine like I do. Yeah. I appreciate it, but I don't expect you to. It's like coffee. You know,
like
if
I had known this, I would have brought wine.
We could do wine anytime. Dude, we could talk wine for days.
He's probably got wine in his car.
I would love to write another book about wine and war, but like wine and war goes so hand in hand. And there's so many war stories. There's a great book called Wine and War. And, you know, I mean, when Rome was like coming through France and pushing the Gauls out, I mean, they stopped their campaign for like 3 years and said, like in Burgundy, they're like, hang on. I know we're in the middle of this great campaign, but like this is the perfect place to grow grapes. You know, it's one of the most prestigious places in the world. It's Burgundy. But like, I mean, that's how important wine is. God's first miracle, Jesus' first miracle was turning water into wine. I mean, wine is a big deal. Yeah. And when you appreciate wine in a different way, it kind of opens up the rest of the world too. It's literally a window of the world. Like, not to be cliche, but wine is a window into the world. Every wine has
I'm a big wine guy.
Incredible story.
I'm a big wine guy. I don't drink it as much as I used to because my wife is like super healthy. Yeah. And she used to drink wine with me a lot more, but like a couple years ago, she had a kidney transplant, her own kidney, transplanted to the other side. Oh. Because she had
that was a thing.
So yeah, like that's a different thing, but it was incredibly wild. She had a very rare condition that typically happens with extremely thin, like athletic women that have kids. Okay. Where like a vein gets pinched. Well, she had 2 veins pinched to the same kidney. Right. It's called double nutcracker. Yeah.
Who named that?
I don't know.
Has nothing to do with the Christmas special.
Yeah. So anyway, they were like, there was like one doctor that was like, well, we're going to cut you from like neck all the way down and do this. And then there was another doctor that was like, I'll go in there with a robot. We'll do 3 micro incisions and we'll move it to the other side. And we were like, let's do that one. And it was really crazy. They literally like you can't even see them it's almost like you know, like if you had like a zit that like you picked at and it kind of scarred a little bit. Like she's got like 3 of those. Right.
I got those all down my back.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, you can't tell. Like you honestly can't tell, and it's wild. And so they're. Science. Well, yeah, she's like competing in jiu-jitsu and stuff now. Yeah. Like it's like it didn't. She's
fine.
Anyway, wild.
That is wild.
But she was like, all right. She was already like a really healthy person, not like me, but she took it to the next level. So she drinks wine rarely now. Yeah. Whereas we used to be able to like, let's have a bottle. Now it's like I'm the sad guy drinking a bottle by myself. You know? From the bottle. Yeah, you're like, you know. So
been there, done it.
But I've got like 300 bottles. Nice. So I have like I have a pretty, you know, not crazy, but like
that's great.
But I have a pretty good. But I'm like almost a pure Italian guy.
Okay, yeah, I mean, Italian wines are like my favorite. You know. Brunello di Montalcino's, big Super Tuscans. You know, I really like that. And I like all the white wines too.
I like the Nebbiolo grape a lot too.
Vernicchio and you know all the big white wine grapes.
But I'll throw a weird one at you.
Negro Amaros.
South African Pinotage.
Yeah, Pinotage is a fun grape.
It's like a Charles Back does a bottle called Spice Route. Okay.
And Pinotage is like, it's fine with me. It's just like, I don't know. It's always been like one of those grapes. It's just a little bit like flabby. You know what I mean? Like, I just hate the fact that there's no tannin behind it. I know what you're saying. I appreciate it because like you're limited in South Africa.
Try, if you can find it, Spice Route Pinotage by Charles Back.
I'll find it.
I visited his vineyard.
What else does Charles Back make? Because he makes, it's BACH, right?
So he got big off of Goats du Rhum.
Yes, I knew. Okay, I knew.
So he has like a very high end winery, and then he has like the marketing stuff.
Yeah, Jason Woodbridge has his fucking layer cake, but also has 100 Acre Wood, which is like one of the
Eric
dream bottles of all time.
Stop beating the table.
So what? Yeah, I was in South Africa years ago, and I visited his vineyards. He's also a cheesemaker. It was really cool. It was a cool.
Wine and cheese is a funny thing too, because like cheese never makes wine good, but wine always makes. Or no, I'm sorry. Wine is never better with cheese, but cheese is always better with wine. Meaning that like cheese is so fatty, like it never helps out the wine.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I always tell
yeah.
people like always just get like a middle of the road wine, because it's all about having the wine and cheese together. But like wine will never be better because of cheese. Yeah. It'll only be worse. Yeah. So like I hate when people like break out like these like $30-$40 bottles with the cheese. I'm like, fuck, dude. Like, let's just do like the $15 bottle with the cheese.
Let's do the Rosso. We don't need. We don't need
all that.
We don't need.
Yeah, save that Brunello to like after we're done with this cheese.
Yeah.
Because like but yeah, that does. And a lot of people do that with Brunellos. Like they'll bring out a really nice like 2002 Brunello or 2005 Brunello, and then they'll put out like some skunky cheese. You know, you're just like, damn it! Like,
why would you do that?
That is a great bottle of
wine.
Put
the lipids away.
But I was terrible at sales, so I did the only thing a C student without a college education could do. Yeah, and that's become a cop. That's how I became a Raleigh police officer after that.
And she didn't mind you being a cop.
Yeah, that's still the weird part.
That's the weirdest.
Well, because you don't deploy. That was the thing. Like, well, and here's the crazy thing about being a cop was I broke my leg fighting a murder suspect like my first year. Like one of my first big cases of my own, I get my leg broke, my partner gets her neck slit, my other partner breaks his arm, all fighting the same fucking dude, Maxwell Mitchell, on Pool Road. Guy he just did 14 years in prison, so he's like prison yoked. Gets out of prison and tries to go murder the same bitch that landed him in prison for attempted murder first time.
Your partner got her throat slit?
Yeah, so he hit her. So we get in a car chase.
Did she die?
Do we have time for this story?
Here's what
we're
going to do.
Another 15 minutes.
Okay. We're going to pause
right.
in like 10 minutes, do our call, and then continue.
Okay, so I'll tell you the story then. I'm sitting at I had my first rookie, and this was like pretty funny at the time because I had been such a fuck up to this point.
As a police officer?
Yeah, like I was like, I was a pretty big fuck up. Like I was getting in all sorts of shit that was way over my head, and it was laughable and it was funny. Yeah. But then this kid,
not bad shit.
No, I mean, just dumb shit.
They weren't like, we're gonna get rid of this guy. They're like, what a funny fuck up.
Yeah, no, it was more like I'm gonna go serve a warrant, and then like having no idea that like
there were 600 people in the house with guns.
Right. Like just dumb shit, falling through attics, chasing people, things like that. So this kid comes in from New Jersey. He might want to be a cop, so he wants to do a ride along. It's Monday. It's the first Monday back from night shift, so we're on day shift now, and nothing happens good on day shift, especially like the first 2 days, because you're still on that night shift mentality. Everything's higher, hopping and popping. Plus, you're on night shift, so you're up all night. So now you're getting up at 5 a.m. Yep. 4 a.m. Getting to work at 5 a.m. And you
got
just on
that,
night.
Got a little bit of that haze going on.
Like, so nobody's doing shit on Monday morning, first day back to day shift. Nothing. Yeah. And so they put this dude with me as a ride along, and he's just this light skinned black kid, very well mannered, very quiet, introverted type guy. And so they're like, Tansey, he's gonna ride with you for today, and everybody starts laughing. They're like, oh man, they're putting him with Tansey, and I'm like, yo, calm down, it's Monday morning. Like, I'm not getting into shit on Monday morning. Like, we're gonna go to Chick-fil-A, then we're gonna go to Brugger's Bagels, and then I'm gonna go have lunch, and then I'm gonna write a couple of tickets in the afternoon. We're gonna call it a day. So I tell the dude, I'm like, yo, why would you want to do a ride along on a Monday? This early in the morning. That it's like you're not gonna get the real, like, this isn't what being a cop's really about on Monday morning day shift. Like, if you really want to know what being a police officer is about, it's like go do night shift any day of the week. And he's like, yeah, I'm just kind of like, this is my first one. I just want to like see how it is, And I'm like, cool. And I was like, well, let me tell you what's going to happen. We're going to Chick-fil-A. And then when we get kicked out of Chick-fil-A, we're going to go over to Brugger's. And we're going to hang out at Brugger's until lunchtime. Then we're going to go back to the station and sit at the station. So we're sitting there. We finally make it to Brugger's. It's about 10 o'clock in the morning. And we're sitting there, and this call goes out across the city. And, it's this guy is bludgeoning this woman to death with a bedpost. And that's what the call goes out as. And so the kid's looking at me like, and I'm just like drinking my coffee, like ignoring the call. Because it's on the other side of the city. I'm not going to that. That's way too much drama for a Monday morning. And then I see him staring at me, and I'm like, can I help you? And he's like, can we go to that? And I was like, dude, it's like on the other side of the city, but like we'll never get there. And he was like, well, and then somebody else was like, Tansey, there'll still be a lot of blood still. And I was like, yeah, you want to see some fucking blood? You want to see a woman with her head bludgeoned? And he's like, And I was like, yeah, you do. Come on, let's go. So I get him up, I get in my car, and we start driving.
Just the two of you.
Just the two of us. Yeah, so we're driving. Well, there was other cops going to the call.
Yeah,
that were
but
closer.
I mean, in your car, you only
in
have
my car, yeah,
only
just
have
me and
him with you.
Just me and him. So we're driving, and this is
and he's a rookie.
no, he's a ride along.
Okay.
He wants to maybe
like
join
a
the academy.
police
so
explorer,
this is
like
just-
a police explorer,
ish.
ish.
Okay.
He's like, I want to be a cop, but I don't know. And then they're like, the recruiter's like, well, just let you ride along with Tansey for a day, and then you want to be a cop. So we're driving down to this, we're driving to this call, which is like 10, 15 minutes away. And I'm just driving regular, and he's like, so we don't want to go like lights and sirens? I was like, dude, no, we're going to be like dead last getting to this call. He's like, oh, okay. I was like, but do you want me to do lights and sirens? He's like, kind of. I was like, all right, I'll do it for just a second. So I throw on the lights and sirens, and I weave through traffic a little bit to get a little bit closer, and then I turn it all off, as all the cops are starting to respond. And then they're like, suspect is fleeing in a Ford F-150 pickup truck, and he's headed down Pool Road. And the guy's like, what does that mean? I was like, well, it means he's leaving on Pool Road, but Pool Road could go opposite directions. Either direction. So.
And you're on Pool Road.
Well, we're getting close to Pool Road. We're not there
adjacent.
yet. We're not there yet. And so he makes a left on Pool Road, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. The guy's like, what? And I was like, well, it's kind of coming in our direction, but they're still like a good 5 or 6 minutes away. He's like, all right, cool. And then they're like, we've lost him. We've lost him at the intersection or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay. So he's gone. Like he probably got on 440 and hitting the belt line, whatever. And I'm like, no worries, cool. So we're just still driving, and we get to this red light intersection, and the kid goes, hang on, is it a white truck with furniture in it? And I look at the notes, and I'm like, yeah. And he's like, there it is. And he points, and the guy's like sitting in the truck looking at us, and he's like, oh, they're on to me. So he takes off, runs the red light. So I do a U-turn in the middle of the intersection, and I'm like, yo, like tighten your seatbelt because it's game on. So we're chasing this dude in this white pickup truck, and he goes to pull over, and I'm like, all right, we're pulling over. And so I said, hey, man, when we pull over, jump out and go to the back of the car, and just whatever happens, stay back there. And so we go to pull over. Well, at that time, my partner was coming over my check-in. She was coming up over the hill, and he sees her, and he just says, fuck it. And he just guns it in this truck, cuts 4 lanes of traffic over, and rides his truck up onto her squad car and through her windshield. And it pushes her seat up and into the shotgun mount, and the shotgun mount cut her from the top of the scalp almost down to the collarbone. And so I thought she was dead. Like, I thought there's no way she survives this. So I tell the dude, I said, hey, run. We're going to have a gunfight. And it's all on camera. I say it just like that. I say, run. We're about to have a gunfight. So I jump out of the car. I pull my gun out. The dude's trying to get out of his truck, and he's falling onto the hood of the car. And I'm like, keep your hands up. Turn around, face away from me. He turns around, face away. He's got his hands up. And I was like, walk back to the sound of my voice. And he's walking back. And I'm thinking this whole time, my best friend is dead. Like, there's no way she survives this. And so I'm shaking, and I'm telling myself, stop shaking, like stop shaking.
Yeah.
So I did. I stopped shaking. And he's coming back, and I was like, stay right there. Put your hands behind your back. And he puts his hand back. And that adrenaline, I rack my gun into that plastic holster. No. And he hears it. And as soon as he hears it, he whips back around. But I pull back out because it wasn't locked in. And it was too late though. He grabbed me up and around. I grabbed him, so I got my gun, and we're rushing. And he's rushing me backwards, and he's a heavy set dude. So we're running backwards, and I got my gun. I'm staring at my gun as I'm like bear hugging this guy. We're running back, and we get to a curb, and we stop. And I said, well, I'm not going to my back with my gun out like this. So I yoked him around as hard as I could to try to kind of slam him down. And I hear like pow, 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 pow. And now I'm like, fuck, dude, I just sent 4 rounds down Pool Road. Like, I am fucked. So we get down onto the ground, and we're wrestling, we're tussling, and I had grabbed him by the belt, by the belt buckle. I'm holding onto his belt buckle, and he's dragging me, and I've still got my gun out, and I'm looking for shell casings. I'm like, where are my shell casings? I don't know why, but I was. And so I was like, oh, okay, get in the fight, Eric, get in the fight. So I go to try to get in the fight, and I feel this pain in my groin. And I'm like, I shot myself in the dick. I cannot believe I shot myself in the fucking dick. And now I'm scared because I'm like, am I bleeding out? Am I bleeding to death? And I'm super frustrated. And all of a sudden, this other cop jumps over top of me and just starts beating the shit out of this dude. And the dude's staring at me, and his head's bouncing off the concrete. And he's just locked eyes with me. Bam, bam. And the pool of blood is getting thicker and thicker as his skull is opening up onto the concrete. And he's just staring at me. Bam, bam. And I'm just in intense pain. And I roll over, and I see my leg is completely 180 degrees from where it's supposed to be. And I'm like, well, that's not good. So the cop that's beating him, his arm snaps, and the bone lunges out from his
cop
arm.
that's hitting him, his arm snaps?
Just snaps, dude. He was out for like almost a year. Like compound
Holy
fracture.
crap.
Just fucking destroys his arm.
This is not good luck.
None. So, and he about beat the dude to death, which was great. And then the guy committed suicide shortly after. But anyway, so he
The
runs
guy
away.
who got beat.
Yeah, the suspect in this
Yeah.
committed suicide at the jail, jumped off the balcony. But so the cop goes over and I'm like, yo, I put four rounds. Yeah, look, you look this up, Maxwell Mitchell. I was like, dude, I put 4 rounds down Pool Road, and they're like, don't worry about it. And I was like, because it's traffic, dude. It's like 10 o'clock in the morning on Pool Road. I'm thinking like, who did I
They
fucking
weren't your
hit?
rounds.
And I'm trying to figure it out. And so I roll over and I put my gun in holster. Come to find out, I didn't shoot any rounds.
Yeah.
It was my leg breaking. That was the pow 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 that I heard. I never shot
What?
off. Yeah, it was my leg breaking from the ankle up to the knee. And I never shot.
So
any
when you
rounds.
twisted,
Yeah, when I twisted,
it didn't go with you.
No, it just stayed
Because all his weight was on it.
all the weight was on it. And so, and so I'd forgot I had a ride along. So they load me up into this ambulance and everything, and they're cutting me over. And all of a sudden, everybody's like, get on the ground. I'm like, what's going on? And they'd already taken my gun away. And so my buddy that's in the ambulance with me, like without hesitation, reaches down for his ankle gun and throws it up on my chest. And everybody's like yelling, and I'm sitting there like, already with
And
a
it's the
morphine
poor
on.
kid.
And it's this guy coming back. He's a black kid with a fucking bulletproof vest on, And so he's like, I was just a ride along. Like, is everything
Oh
okay?
my
And I was
God.
like, dude, what? They were like, Tansey, did you have a ride along? And I was like, oh yeah, I did. And they're like, this kid's eyes are like, super wide. And he's like, I was like, what happened, dude? And he was like, you told me to run, so I just kept running. And then I was like in the bad part of town. I've got this bulletproof vest on. Everybody was looking at me. And he's like, I just started running back to the sounds of sirens, And he got back, and they were like, I was like, all right, man, well, listen, they're loading up. They're taking me to the hospital. And my partner at the time, Red, at the end of the story, though, when she came to put handcuffs on the guy, she walks up and she's holding her neck like this. And I'm like, oh my God, it's an angel, because I thought she was dead. And she's like, man, what happened to you? And I was like, I broke my leg. She's like, yeah, obviously. And she's like, what happened to him? And my buddy was out jumping around. I was like, he broke his arm, like bad. And she's like, is he in handcuffs? And I was like, no. And she's like, okay. She lets go of her neck, and like her whole arm and shoulder just turns bright red. And she gets this guy locked down, and then she looks at her hands, and they are just like painted in blood. And she's like, oh, that's not good. And she like kind of like faints over on me. So we're both just kind of like laying there, and this other dude's like, cussing off on, running down the street with a snapped arm. And so like we're all loaded up in the ambulance, and I tell the ride along, I'm like, yo, are you going to get in with me, or they can take you back to the station, whatever you want to do, but we're rolling. And he was like, I don't want to be a cop anymore. I just want to go home.
No shit.
Well,
Wrote me this,
I
like-
mean, that's an insane.
Hey, but-
Monday
hey,
morning,
but-
dude. Monday
Hey.
morning at 10 o'clock. Only Eric Tansey can this shit happen.
But welcome to the police department. I mean,
Yeah.
what did you think it was going to be? Just
Yeah,
donuts and
like just
Chick-fil-A?
Chick-fil-A and donuts,
I mean, that's what you thought it was going to be.
That's what I was hoping it was going to be.
Hey, it's his own fault. He said, there he is.
Well, that's true. Like, we could have just ignored that. But, and then Maxwell Mitchell committed suicide the day we had court.
It's a damn shame.
Yeah, damn it. You know when he wrote a letter? He wrote like a suicide note, and everybody was like, do you want to read it? And I was like, well, fuck it. Yeah, I want to read it. And, dude, it was like, to my 3 cats, I want to leave it to my sister, blah, 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 in West Virginia. And if somebody could please make sure that the air conditioner is set to da-da-da-da, I don't want there to be mold. And like, it was just this like ridiculous list of chores. Like, no apology to the chick he bludgeoned, to the cops that he fucked over. Like,
Did that girl die? Did he bludgeoned?
No, because like he was going to trial for attempted murder.
Okay, all right.
But I never knew like what
she was messed up
her
or
status was.
Was this in Raleigh?
Yeah, Maxwell Mitchell, and his mugshot is great because he has a gaping hole in his fucking forehead. I've got it on my phone. You can post it up on your Instagrams. But
what I learned is that police officers have weak bones.
we do, yeah, we do. Because a year later, I broke my arm punching a guy in the back of the head. And that's another story. So yeah, back to backstories.
So before we were so rudely interrupted by your phone call to Simon Schuster, we had a great show going on. But I guess you having a book coming out and Nick helping you with it is very important. So let's talk about your phone call.
I mean, you kind of just took away the whole luster of like
it says the interpreter with Nick Palmisano, not Hollywood Heard. So I'm doing the best I can.
Touche.
Yeah,
Touche.
See what he just did there. You see what he just did? He took my whole joke line.
I took your whole
He
joke.
took my whole off-camera joke
Yeah.
and fucking made it his.
Smart dude.
That's why you can't trust this guy. Can't trust him as far as you can throw him, and he's not an easy man to throw.
How did that meeting go? Was it good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that meeting went great.
Great.
So tell everybody about the meeting we just had that Hollywood already, like, he ruined the foreshadowing.
Much about it.
He ruined the foreshadowing already.
It wasn't the foreshadowing. I mean, I still don't even know what happened. I don't know what's happened the last 9 months.
Start at the beginning.
At the beginning?
Yeah, the beginning.
Well, I mean, going back the beginning would be like 9 months ago when I sent you kind of like a rough draft of a book that I had written.
More than a rough draft. Like, it was a solid draft.
Yeah,
it was a solid draft.
I worked hard on it and had a lot of great help on it. And
what did your wife think of it?
Well, that's kind of the thing going back is, like, I started writing these because I got in trouble as a cop for writing reports and then having my wife edit them. So I would write these reports, and my Sarge at the time, who I called Tom, I didn't refer to him as Sergeant anything. I just called him Tom.
Yeah.
Because he was a grumpy old piece of shit that nobody liked.
Yeah.
Like, every detective was like, yo, who's your sergeant? And you would say who it was, and they're like, oh, dude, he's the worst. Because he was on, like, he had like 1 year to retire.
Yep.
And he didn't give a fuck. But I respect a dude like that. So, like, one day he came in, he said something, and I was like, you got it, Tom. And he was like, Poof, and he shut the door, and everybody was like, yo, did you just call him Tom? And I'm like, yeah, it's Tom, dude. It's fine. It's cool. And then Tom and I, as you see in the book, become like kind of like, never know if we were friends, but he was very tolerant of all my shenanigans.
He was tolerant of you, which has to count for something.
Which means I loved him to death. So anyway, he sits me down, and he's like very, frank, old sergeant type, and he was like, your reports are terrible. And I was like, thanks. He's like, you should be embarrassed. And I was like, I am. He's like, make them better. And I was like, you got it. And so I started writing the reports and then taking them printing them off, and then driving home, having my wife edit them. And one particular case I brought to her, and she was like, wait, I thought you already went to trial with this. And it was a homicide case. So it was a big trial, jury trial. And I was like, yeah, I did. But like now it's going to a different trial, like a higher trial. And she was like, so wait a minute, who got this report before me? And I said, oh, the jury that convicted him and everything, they had a hold of this. And she was like, a jury looked at this, or just like, you're joking, like it was a draft? And I was like, no, what you have in your hand, the jury had. And she was like, honey, what? Like, you didn't even use where right, there's right. Like, everything was like, there's no commas, like your run-on sentences are like 2 pages long. She's like, this is embarrassing. I was like, yeah, that's what Tom said.
That's why I'm here.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
So she was like, man, she's marking these things all up, So for about, maybe 3 weeks or so, doing about 15 reports a day, all of a sudden detectives are starting to reach out. And they're like, man, this is a great report. Hey, dude, this is a solid report. Hey, we're going to run with this case. This is a solid report. And I'm like, boom, boom. Sarge calls me in his office. Tom does. And he was like, sit down. How did your reports get so good? And I said, I had my wife edit them. And he was like, no, you didn't. And I was like, yes, I did. And he was like, are you emailing your wife? No, I said, no, I'm not that stupid. I print them off. I drive them home. And he was like, this can't happen. Like, this stops in now.
Yeah.
He's like, do you understand that, like, all your cases forever could be, like, thrown out for this? And I was like, is it that big of a deal? I didn't think anybody would know. And he was like, yeah, we know. Like, you can look at your reports, like, 3 weeks ago, and you're, like, a kindergartner, and now you're, like, a master's student. He's like, fix your reports the right way, and don't ever speak of this again. I was like, all right. So,
can we say this on the podcast?
yeah, I don't care.
You don't care anymore?
Dude, who gives a shit, dude? Like, those people are probably already out anyway.
Yeah.
Like, you don't do more than, like, 2 years for murder these days, unless you're a January 6th.
Is that real? Is that real?
Yeah, for sure.
2 years for murder?
Good behavior, yeah. And they'll get out sometimes.
That makes murder a lot more attractive.
They'll get like 7 years.
It makes it appealing actually.
2 years, no bills. You're just sitting. It's kind of like a deployment, really. Better than a deployment because you have some rights. You know what I mean? But so I started, and I was on night shift, and so I'd be awake at night by myself. And instead of looking at porn all night, I was like, maybe I should do something constructive, and maybe I'll start writing stories and just try to be a better writer. Yeah. And I started that out with actually wine blogging, and I had a pretty successful wine blog.
Stop beating the table.
And so then I would start writing these stories down for my kids. I was like, I'll start writing some cop stories now for my kids. And then that lasted like 2 years. And so one day my wife gets up real early and I'm still typing. She was like, "Are you still working on that book?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to name it Pig Latin." She was like, "That is the best name I've ever heard for a book."
Yeah.
And she was like, "Can I read it?" And I was like, "No, fuck no. Like, this will be for my kids when they graduate high school." I'll be like, you know, you remember The Office where he's like, you know, what is it, like Midnight Scarn or whatever? You know?
Michael Scarn.
That's kind of how I was picturing this thing. And so eventually she got the book and she went and read it and she came back out crying. She was like, "It's so hard to write comedy." And she was like, "I was laughing so hard. What are you doing with this book?" And I said, "Nothing. I was just writing it." And she was like, "Dude, let's make this a thing. Come on, this is a great." And I was like,
She
"No,
calls
it's
you
not."
dude?
Yeah, probably in that scenario she called me dude. Yeah, she's a cool chick. She's rad. She wears Vans, right? Yeah, she's cool. She's hip.
My wife wears Vans.
She's boss.
We'll have to get her on the show.
Oh, dude, she rages on, like, everybody that's ever had her on podcast has been like, she rages.
Because we'll get the real story.
Yeah, oh yeah, you will too. Like, it's again like that girl.
Yeah.
But anyway, so she reads the book. She wants to do something with it, and so we send it over to Ross Patterson because I was podcasting with those guys.
Ross Patterson.
Gene Vandenham.
Ross Patterson.
Oh, Gene Vandenham. And he wanted nothing to do with the book. He was like, "Yo, there's no intro." I was like, "What do you mean there's no intro? Like, that's the coolest story of all time, that first story."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah, but there's no intro." And I was like, "Shit." I was like, "Yeah, you're right. It sucks." And so that was it, dude. I put the book on the shelf for like over a year, like a year and a half. And my wife was like, "Stop beating yourself up. Like, get this book out. Like, who cares what Ross says?" And I was like, "No."
You hear that,
You
Ross
hear that,
Patterson?
Ross Patterson?
Yeah,
Who cares what Ross Patterson
Who
says?
cares what
Who
Ross
cares?
Patterson thinks?
And I don't know how it happened, but somehow the book made it to you. Somebody.
I think it was.
said,
I think Mike the cop.
Yeah.
I think Mike the cop said you should talk.
Yeah.
We should talk.
Yeah. And so I got it over to you, and I was
99%
really nervous
sure
because I
that's
just seen your movie a few times because I worked for Drinking Bros for like a whole, like almost 2 years. And so I was very familiar with your movies. And a Ranger Up, I had a bunch of shirts. They were all my undershirts as a cop.
I appreciate
were
it.
Ranger Up.
Yeah.
Were Ranger Up shirts. And I was familiar with all the meetups that you guys did. I didn't go to them, but like I knew.
Yeah.
Like all my friends went,
Yeah.
and like everybody loved it, you know?
Yeah. You meet me now, you realize I'm really underwhelming in person.
like,
Like it's
geez,
like, oh
what
wow,
was I thinking? Yeah,
I
dude,
thought this guy was.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, would you know? Do you want to get some?
He's like Drew Carey.
Do you want to get
the
some?
Wish.com of Drew
Do you want to go
Carey.
get a salad or something? Maybe have like some decaffeinated coffee. You know?
Is this decaf?
No,
I'll
God,
fucking
no.
rage
I
right
was
now.
joking. I'm
No,
joking.
bro.
I was joking.
So I sent you my book, man, and I remember, dude, I remember sweating so hard 9 months ago. Just embarrassed going, like, laying on my pillow and being, like, getting the knots in your stomach. You know when you drink a lot at night or something like that and you don't remember what you said and it starts to come back to you what you might have said and you're just like, oh. Well, and I haven't done that in 20 years.
I don't do that
'cause I have
anymore.
kids.
I don't
I have
do that
kids. I
anymore.
haven't done that in 20 years.
Yeah.
But you remember back
Yes.
then when you
Yes.
used to do stupid stuff.
Yeah.
And I was having those, like, moments where I was like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
Did I send him this manuscript? Like, what were you thinking, Eric? Like, you're done. Like, this dude's gonna think you're an idiot, and you're done. And then I would have conversations with you, and I'd play these conversations back in my head as I'm laying in my bed, and I'm like, did I say that to him?
Were you touching yourself?
Why would I need to tell him that story? Like, why did I feel the need to give him that much more information? Why didn't I just shut the fuck up? You know, and so I was
No,
just
but the story
second-guessing
added
myself.
stuff. Like we need to get more of that into it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was just second guessing myself this whole process, you know, and then all of a sudden you would call me back with these like ridiculous words of wisdom. Just ridiculous. Like, yeah, we'll run with it. Yeah, what do you mean we'll run with it? Like, what does that mean, dude? I've never written a book in my life. And like, even my smart genius wife, I would be like, yeah, Nick said we'll run with it. And she was like, what was the tone of his voice? Like, what was his exact words? And I was like, we'll run with it. And she was like, that doesn't do anything, you know? So I have no idea what's going on for like 9 months. And then every time we'd have these like conversations, I would dig myself deeper and deeper. Like, you know, then I found myself like trying to convince you I'm a cool person. I'm like, no, dude, listen, I'm really cool. Like, look at my kids. And then I come and visit you and I'm like,
Well, you brought your wife.
Right. But they were always going to stay in the car. But my wife's like looking around and like all these, because it's in Durham.
Yeah.
My wife's like, we're not staying in the car.
Yeah.
And I was like, I really need you to stay in the car. She's like, I'm not staying in the car.
Well, no, you brought your wife up and you were like, you know, she wants to hear like
Right.
what you think we should do.
Right. But the kids, I think, were in the car.
Because I edited a chapter for you.
Sure.
If you remember that.
That's right. I do
And then we
remember that.
talked about like what, you know, what I thought the book needed to be a little bit more.
Right.
And then you had that like, you called me just like stressed out of your mind.
Well,
But first we had the meeting.
Yeah, we had the meeting, and my kids had to come.
Yeah, and they were great.
Where'd you guys
meet?
We met at the old office.
Old office?
The old
Yeah,
office.
and so like the thing was though is to leave everybody in the car and me to go do this thing with Ashley and I. But then we were like, yo, we can't leave the kids in the car.
Yeah.
In this area of
Yeah,
Durham.
they came up.
So we came up, and then I was like already like even more bad. Like now I'm like I'm not a professional. I've got these kids with me. You know, I'm ransacking your. You know, yeah, because I you're like a celebrity to me for sure.
I'm not,
and you are a celebrity.
I'm really not.
You are,
and you know
you
he
are.
is.
You're New York Times bestseller, dude.
I call him.
Yes,
I call him the reluctant celebrity.
Yeah,
I'm not though.
But you are.
I'm like a Gen
been in
1
movies.
influencer. Like there's only like 4 people alive that still remember when I was like.
Well, I'm one of them.
Doing the Ranger Up workout video, you know.
I remember when you moved into your new warehouse. Ranger
That was
Up.
huge.
And just being like, whoa, I was still a cop back then.
Yeah.
I just thought that was really, really, really cool. But so yeah, I'm having these meetings with you, and I'm flopping on every angle, bringing my kids in.
You weren't flopping.
Well,
at
I
all.
felt like I was,
Yeah.
And the book just kept progressing, and then I have an imposter syndrome, like I really do.
Yeah.
I feel like every day I'm an imposter. Like I feel like I am, I own a distillery, but I'm a shitty business person. I own a podcast network, but I only started podcasting like 2 years ago with the Drinking Bros. Like I feel like I put myself into these positions that I'm not qualified to be in.
So I think and this is just life advice that you don't need because you're already doing it. But the reality is that nobody really knows what the fuck they're doing. And trying is what gets you there. So like Scars and Stripes was my first book, but I have enough reps of like trying things that there was no part of me that was like, this isn't going to succeed. It was like, I'm going to approach the book the way that I approached Ranger Up, the way that I approached Range 15, the way I approached Diesel Jack Media, the way I approach it. Like, let's figure it out. And then once we figure it out, let's figure out what other people aren't doing, and let's do those things.
Right. But I think that's the difference between me and you. Is that
No,
you
but
have
that's not true, 'cause you're doing it.
crossed life through like successes, and I've crossed life through failures.
Yeah, but you have.
But look what you. But no, it's bullshit.
Oh, for sure.
It's bullshit.
Look at the special. I didn't get a Green Beret.
That doesn't matter.
But
that doesn't matter.
That was your choice. You chased your wife.
Well, yeah, sure. But like at the end of the day, you would never like, you know what I mean? You would never be able to articulate that. You didn't get a Green Beret. You went to go get one. You didn't come back.
Yeah, but your life is not judged by not getting a Green Beret. You weren't born.
Sure, but it's more than just that.
But you weren't born, and you had all these things you had to do. Every day as your life changes and shifts, your direction and your purpose and your goals change. So not reaching that does not make you a failure or an imposter. But you move on. You move on into another direction.
But you have
fair point.
But you got to also appreciate that, like, even the things that you call successes from me, I look at a lot of them as failures. Like Ranger Up could have done more. I made mistakes. It could have been bigger. We could have done cooler things. Like Range 15, if I had to do it over again, we would have made some different choices. We would have filmed it differently. We would have maybe given ourselves more time. Like, you can go down the line and look at anything from both sides, but the fact of the matter is, like, you do have a podcast network that's successful, right?
Well, sure, yeah.
You do have a distillery that's successful. You have a successful marriage. You're about to have a successful book. Like,
yeah.
You have to look at it differently.
And that's just like in the last 2 years.
And then once it's
just
done,
kind of like, wow,
once it's done, it's got to be done.
Right.
And I've wrestled with that in the past too. Like, things went wrong a couple times at Ranger Up that were soul crushing, that cost me money, that cost me reputation, where it was like, outside forces, but those outside forces were allowed in because of my bad decisions. And so like option 1 is like you just sit on it and you just dwell on it and you're like, I suck. And option 2 is like, I am never making that mistake again. I just paid dearly for that mistake, and now we advance.
Right.
And if anybody tries to bring you, well, you did, you made this mistake. Like, hey man, like,
yeah,
I did. And now we're moving on to the next thing.
Right.
So like,
that's kind of like how I feel about it all. But it's like, for just for all intents and purposes of this whole like book. But yeah, like we're sitting on a phone call, you know, where it was like yesterday. Like I haven't slept in a week since you said we've got this meeting with the publisher. You know, like just
I want you to know that I've slept.
The night before. Yeah, I know you have, you motherfucker. The night before, I'm like, dude, this guy, Nick, hasn't called me. He hasn't talked to me. Like, we've got this meeting. I don't know how this meeting's going to go. Like, I pull the suit out, the tie. Like, I'm trying to see if the thing still fits. It doesn't. It doesn't, you know? So I'm trying to figure this thing out. And I get the suit laid out. And I'm like, well, what is Nick going to be wearing? Like, what are the questions they're going to ask him? So I call Nick, right? Well, you don't answer, of course.
He never,
no, you called me back. You did call me back. You called back.
But don't take that personally.
No, I don't. No,
Okay.
I listen.
He never
listen. If I took every time, like Mike the cop has probably never answered the phone a single time that I've ever called him ever in the history of knowing him. But if I don't answer the phone, if I don't answer the phone, he puts some shit on social media, like some kind of like dramatic post about me not answering the fucking phone. So so I'm like, I'm going to go for a jog. I'm going to run this out. It's 94 degrees outside. It's 2:00 in the afternoon. I'm stressed to the max. I'm like a rubber band about to pop. I'm going to go for a run, So I take off on this run. And sure as shit, like you call me at like, like when you're on those runs and you're like on the way back and it's like the gut check part of the run where you're like, man, like I got two more hills to conquer.
I got to go right now.
Like it's good. And then you call me like right then. So like I'm really out of breath, like, Yeah. And so I'm trying to figure out today. I'm like, okay, so what are we going to do tomorrow? Like, what are you wearing? You're like, t-shirt. And I'm like, no, seriously, what are you wearing tomorrow to this meeting?
I wear a t-shirt to everything.
You're like t-shirt. And I was like,
we have to beg him to put the jacket on.
I'm like, okay, dude. So like, what do I do? So like, do I wear like a suit and tie? You're like, I mean, you wear what you want. And I'm like, yeah, but what do I need to wear? And you're like, whatever you want. Be yourself. And I'm like, so I've read all, like in the whole week, I've read every blog and I've watched every vlog, video blog, every piece of content, every Reddit thread about what today's meeting could be. And by the way, nobody fucking knows. Right? Because like even that meeting wasn't anything that anybody's blogged about.
So, Amar and I, Amar is a great editor. Like truly I enjoyed working with him a lot. And, so we were, with Scars and Stripes, we were in the very fortunate situation where, Tim and I received 6 or 7 offers.
Oh, wow.
And we interviewed all of the editors because in publishing, the editor is the one that actually buys the book.
Yeah.
And so and they're on the hook, like from a profit loss standpoint for the book. So we had 6 or 7 offers, and we met with every editor. Hollywood's just leaving us. He's just walking away. He's so bored with this.
Screw you guys.
But we interviewed all of these people. And at the end of it, Tim and I both liked 2 people, and they were both in the Simon & Schuster world. There were 2 competing kind of, because Simon & Schuster owns multiple, and it really came down to like I just thought Amar and I would work really well together.
He's got great energy.
He's got great energy. He's a good guy, and his edits are thoughtful.
Yeah.
Not just like this is the way it has to be, but like this is why I did this and here's what I think. And it allows you to, because it's tough when it's your own writing, and you know this.
Yeah. When
it's your own writing, it's tough sometimes to hear the criticism because it's like you love what you did or you wouldn't have done it.
Right.
But his edits made the book better.
Yeah, and I think for me, like when I had that meltdown with you, like I don't know, it was like December or January.
Yeah.
Like my meltdown was over. It was like when I wrote this book, I wrote it the best that I knew how. Yeah. Right? Because I don't know a lot of big words. Yeah. I didn't go to college.
Well, I don't think the book needs big words.
When I was going through like the restructure of your thing, like what was going on, again, this is like that imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And I was like, my thing was, and it's not like a give up. I'm not a quitter, but like I'm not a stolen, like stolen valor is probably not the right word, but like I never want to lead somebody into believing. I always want to overproduce. I don't want to underproduce for anything.
Sure.
So I'm giving you this book, like I'm some kind of a writer, and I'm not, right? So I give you this book, and, and then it comes back with all these edits, and that's cool. But then you were like there was like a lot of like restructuring and stuff, and you using words like Quentin Tarantinoing these things, So I'm going and watching like Quentin Tarantino movies because I'm like, what is Quentin Tarantinoing this mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I had to go back and watch like.
Well,
some
he
Quentin
drops you
Tarantino.
right in the story.
Sure.
And that's what I think.
And I wasn't like I wasn't
Yeah.
like into that. So then I watch it, and then I'm like super overwhelmed, and I was like, you know what? This is all bullshit. Like, I'm not a fucking writer. I don't fucking know. I'm gonna stop pretending like I know. Fuck this book. I wasn't gonna be a writer anyway. I'm not going to waste his time or my time. I'm just going to send him a text. My wife's like, don't send him a text. I was like, nah, fuck it. I'm so tired of listening to everybody else. I'm going to send this guy a fucking text. And I'm just going to say, fuck it. I don't care anyway. Like,
Yeah.
like either if you want to make it a great book, make it a great book. I'm not that guy. I'm not your dude. Like, I'm just a storyteller.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what I wrote. And I sent it off. And you know what was crazy? It was like, you responded, I don't know, maybe in like 3 or 4 days. And you were like, yo, I don't know what's up, but like, I got you. We can do this. Like, and then my wife was like, you're going to listen to him, and we're going to do this, and just hold it out. And I was like, all right. And so now here we are.
Yeah.
It's still in the same boat, right? Like, I laid out my suit and tie yesterday. Woke up this morning, 4:45.
Well, no, listen.
And I said, no, fuck the suit. I'm going to do what he says. I'm going to wear shorts and a collared shirt.
Here's the thing. You have a great book, and you're a very good writer. It's not like the writing is bad. It's that you when you tell a story, it's like the best story I've ever heard every time. Like when you verbalize it, it is like a 10 out of 10. And when you write it, it's like a 7 or 8 out of 10. And the reason is because, and this is my honest opinion, high school teaches us how to write in a dumb way unless you have an exceptional teacher. And everything is about like setting the stage and over describing, and we start writing a way that is very instructional instead of in a way that leads to a good story. And so when you write, it's not you. That's how I feel about it. I don't feel like what you write is you. I feel like it is a person describing you.
Yeah, and I think that might become one from high school, Craig, because they're like, you got to write a paragraph and you have to have 10 adjectives, and so you're like forcing it. Yeah. But also when you're a report writer for a cop, you're not telling a story.
Yeah.
You're saying Nick Palmisano, 5'6", 300 and whatever.
Yeah.
Tan blue.
5'6". That really hurts. I'm
300.
I'm 5'8". I was once 5'9". That's what it says on my army ID.
5'8", 165.
I have shrunk to 5'8".
Super cut.
5'6" hurts.
But you
That's
write
fucked
it.
up.
Wow,
That's why,
sorry, dude. I was just throwing numbers out, dude.
Listen, when you're a short guy, you can't be knocking off
We're
2
like
inches.
the same height, bro.
Yeah, but like dropping it to 5'6", like
same height.
that puts you. I'm just tall enough that I never got little man's disease. You know what I mean? Like I don't have
I
that.
feel like we're the same thing.
Yeah,
you
well,
and I would have been. You and I rucking would have been ruck partners because like our legs would match.
because our legs are like this.
Yeah.
And they're like,
you and I would have been like pacing together. But you and I would be able to carry the heavier load because we're like we got the shoulders for it. These
I could
stream
pick
beans.
either one of you up right now.
we're built for damage.
Yeah. Like bowling.
Like if it was like in Dungeons and Dragons.
If you fell down a flight of stairs, you'd break every bone in your body. You know what? We just tuck and roll.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Just
go through
into a little ball.
I'd be like, snap.
Yeah. You'd be leaving limbs everywhere. You'd just be a head and a torso at the bottom of a flight of stairs.
Yeah,
that's true.
But it was crazy to have that meeting, man, and like just to sit there and like have the guy say like all the good things about the book.
Yeah, because you did a great job.
It was really cool.
So you did a great job. So Amar is, he's all business, and like he's an aw shucks kind of guy.
Yeah.
But he basically only hits home runs. Like he has, I don't think he has any books that have not been profitable.
Yeah.
And he already, as a very young editor, has a wall of New York Times bestsellers.
Yeah, that's
so and because we worked really well together, it was easy for me to, because I'm super direct. You are not the first person to come to me and say,
I'm not your first.
You're not. You're not. So one of the thing, what do I have the least of?
Patience.
Also true. but I was going
bullshit.
I was going to go time.
Time.
I don't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
Well, that's the same thing. Let's get to the point.
So if I didn't think that you had a book, right, or if I was like kind of interested, I would say no.
Right.
Like I would say, you know, hey, let me make this introduction, but like it wouldn't be me. But like I read what you wrote, and I was like, there is a book here. Like this is something that hasn't been done, and you're a phenomenal storyteller, and there's something beneath just the humor. This is going to be a really good book. So this is the first book that I've been extremely interested in writing.
I'm excited to start cracking at it with you too. You know
so because it's a lot of work. Like and Hollywood can the way that I am. I have to be all in, or I have to say no.
Right. Well, I'm the same way.
I can't be.
I'm the same way. I got too many sticks in the fire as it is.
Because
right? Like
because what it's going to be, what this is going to be, and the way I go on runs. Like some people write. Like I'm friends with Ryan Holiday, who is a prolific writer. He's excellent. He's got. I think he's got like 19 New York Times,
Jeez.
like some ridiculous number. But he writes, like he gets up, he goes for a walk, he does a little exercise, he sits down, and from X hour to X hour he writes, and then his life is like that. My life is like,
I wish.
I feel like I'm about to go on a run. Let me sit down and start writing at 6 after work. Everyone and I start writing, and then I'm texting my wife at midnight saying, hey, I'm just rolling with it. I don't know when I'll be home. I might sleep in the office. Like for Scars and Stripes, I went on 12 to 15 hour writing runs where I just went and didn't worry about whether it was good or not, just went. And then like went to sleep. And then the next day, whenever maybe I woke up at noon, then I like look at it and I'm like, then I'll edit it.
Right. That's kind of how I do it too. Like I get on these like big runs and
so
then go in.
It takes a lot out of me.
Yeah.
So if I'm not fired up about it,
then it's that much harder.
Then it's a chore.
It's almost like impossible. Actually.
Yes, it's almost impossible for
because you couldn't even you can't even think creatively. Like you're overwhelmed.
It's impossible to make it. And again, like I don't want to sound like the douchebag that's like I'm a great writer. But I know that my best work happens when I am fired up and inspired to write it. It doesn't. If I write like it's a chore, my writing suffers.
Right.
And also you start doing that thing where you write like a quarter of a page and then you're like, I better check my phone. I better maybe I'll do a lap around the office and talk to a few people. And then like you go through a day and you get half a page done.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're on it, it's like,
the story's like kind of like writing itself at some point. Like it snowballs into it, and
yeah.
And I think it's kind of like why you're doing it too is important. I know that, like that's cliche, right? Would you, but like for me, when I was writing the book, it was fun and because it was for my kids,
Yeah.
But like now, what's exciting is that I really do think the book is going to help law enforcement officers, and it's not necessarily a book for cops. Like it's more of a book for their spouses. It's for the normal Joe, the military veteran who thinks they might know what policing is about. I mean, it's just a comedy. It's just to make everybody kind of laugh and be more empathetic to the profession. But I really do think that the book is going to have a lasting effect on the profession. I hope.
I think one of the things that I like about it is that your stories are they are not about being pro cop, and they're not about being anti whatever. Like all these people, they like to get in these debates, Black Lives Matters, all lives matter. The cops are the good guys, the cops are the bad guys, cops are flawless,
right.
Cops are evil, like this stupid binary kind of like,
I mean, could you say it's a neutral position?
Yeah. Well, no, but it's not a neutral position. It's a humane position. You don't pass judgment. You're just like, this is what it is. And I think that is what's going to be so eye-opening for people when they read it is, I mean, you've seen like any police incident happens and there are, thousands of people that all tell you, I would have done this.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And, I've never been a cop. I never will be a cop. I have no desire to deal with people's bullshit, you know, and you know, I do, you know, I train with a lot of cops because, you know, jiu-jitsu is like, it's like cops and stoners, you know,
Sure,
and also me.
Right.
And so it's one of the weirdest places on earth because you have all these different groups like intermingling. And, but like, you know, cops they have to deal with bad people or good people on their worst day.
Yeah.
And it's almost never like, what a fun day of work this was.
Yeah, you know, and I think that's why cops don't have friends
that aren't cops.
That aren't cops.
Yeah.
Because you can't relate. Like once you've been in that and you're immersed in it, especially if you're if you're a small time cop, you know, like small city, small county stuff. Yeah, that's a different story. But like big city cops that take 15 to 20 calls in a 12-hour period, you know, it's so hard to relate to anybody else out there because one, everybody's got an opinion, right? Like, and when you're a cop, any circle that you get in, you're going to hear like, well, I got pulled over once. And like, they think that you're just running radar and doing cops. By the way, like the cops that you see running radar and they're doing that because they've already been shot or they've broken their legs several times or they've got a broken back and they're just trying to fucking
make it to the
make
end.
it 30 years.
I'll tell you what.
You know what I mean? Like that's not the majority of cops
Right.
are sitting out there. But those guys that are writing tickets are usually there because they're fucking hard. It's because they've seen some shit. A lot of times they're like, you know, a lot of times they'll be like, well, it's just a fucking stupid cop hiding. Well, he's doing it because he's got nothing else to do. You're right. And that's because he's probably already been shot.
Yeah.
Maybe multiple times. You know, all the cops that I know that kind of digress in that direction, or it's because they don't want to chase anybody anymore because they've done it a lot. They don't want a gun battle because they've already done that a lot. You know, and I think that most civilians just think that like it's the coward cop that's hiding behind the sign
when I was
a lot of times you couldn't be more wrong.
I don't really break laws anymore. Like even like I don't really speed. I mean, I speed like everyone does. Like it's 70, I'm gonna go 75, 80. You know, like. Yeah. But I'm not like.
Yeah.
You know, but when I was a young man, when I was still in the military, I sped. Yeah, you know, sure. And so
I did too.
So I get pulled over once, and it's like a rainy day, and I'm in like a Pontiac Trans Am, you know, like this cop, like he loses it on me. He's like ripping into me, and I've been pulled over before at this point, and I'm like, holy shit, this guy's an asshole, and it's pouring raining, and the window's open. He's getting rained on. I'm getting rained on, and like he's like, you know, like stay here, you know. So he goes back, and I'm like, oh man, no. He's gone for a while, and I'm like, I haven't done anything.
The internet's slow.
Like I haven't done anything. Well, this was ages. This is like
the internet was really slow.
This is the 90s.
Yeah, so he's still calling back, and somebody's having to get on a computer. Yeah, so like that's why it always takes.
But anyway, he comes back, and he's like, hey, I'm sorry about before. I pulled out 2 kids your age out of a car dead an hour ago, doing the same stupid shit you're doing now,
and it pisses him off.
And it's like.
We've all been there, dude. Like, and I didn't do DUIs until I saw somebody die in a DUI, and then I was like, "Fuck, man!" I went on a spell of writing like 3 or 4 DUIs in a week because.
But it was eye opening, and it was a very. He didn't have to do that,
right?
And it was a very human moment.
Yeah.
And like it made me think differently about
it. Right, and that happens every day to every big city cop. I mean, there was one particular shift where, and if we have time for this one story,
we got time. I'm just checking to make sure that.
No, you're good. Yeah.
Yeah, we're good.
You know, and this isn't in the book, but it's still a great story. But I had served a pretty significant warrant. I got to work at like 6 p.m. And I served a pretty significant search warrant that I had written the night before. And just like a book, right? You got to write a search warrant. You got to pitch it to your sergeant. Sergeant's got to agree with it. He's got to pitch it to his captain. Then you got to drive it up to a magistrate, pitch it to a magistrate. Magistrate's got to sign off on it. And then you got to pitch it to the SWAT team.
Yep.
And the SWAT team's got to do. So it's an all day process. So I had started it the night before, went home, got some sleep, came back, served the search warrant. Think I got like 2 stolen firearms out of it and some drugs and a significant amount of cash. So I was high on life, and I think I was done with the warrant about 9 p.m. You know? So I roll over to a place called Westinghouse, and it's just it's an obscure part of Raleigh that has some city gas pumps. It's very safe as far as pumping gas goes. You don't have to worry about somebody stabbing you or fucking shooting you at the gas station. And I'm pumping gas, and I I'm getting on my phone and playing on the Instagram. He's leaning up against my car, just in the green, as they say, just chilling. And this call goes out that a man has been stabbed several times in the hotel room, and he's trying to run down the stairwell of the hotel, but he's losing a lot of blood. And they call out the hotel, and I can see the hotel from the gas pump. And I'm like, yo, what? So I jump in my car, I slam on the drive, and I roll, wow! I look back, and I've got the gas
nice
pump hanging out.
Dragon tail
out of the side of my car. So I pull, I stop, I jump out of the car, but I don't put it in drive, so it's rolling. And I'm like trying to hop my ass back into it, put it in park, get back out. I remove the gas pump, and I have one of those like little locks that you would put on an air compressor, pull it back. So I run over, I put it back on. This is a city gas pump. So I connect the thing back together. I look right at the camera, and I go, like, thank God it's just a quick disconnect when spraying gas all over the place. I jump in the car, I run over to the hotel. Sure enough, there's the dude laid out, face down on the stairs, feet way up, head down low, blood everywhere, trail of blood that's half a mile long, exaggerated there, but all the way back to the hotel. Yeah. And this dude's been stabbed a fuck ton of times, And there's a little kid sitting at the top of the stairs crying. And I'm calling 911 and everything, and I'm trying to figure out where the bad guys are. And this dude's a white guy, and I go over to the kid. I've got my gun out. I'm on the stairwell. I'm all by myself. Again, because I'm 20 seconds away, Yeah. And so I look at the kid, and I'm like, hey, where's the guy who did this? Where's the bad guy? And the kid's like, and I was like, I'm sorry. Listen, hey, who did this? Who is that? And he's like, that's my dad. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. And the kid's wearing like SpongeBob pajamas, little white kid, probably 6 years old. And I'm like, okay, who did this to your daddy? And he was like, points to a hotel room. Are they still in there? And he's like, yeah. So I'm like, fuck. So I got my gun out, and I go by, and I just remember seeing this like pillow on the ground with the most coagulated blood, just gob of blood, almost looked like an organ on a thing. I just stared at it, and I was like, what the fuck is that? And I look into the hotel room, and it looks like, a horrific murder, blood everywhere. I was like, well, we got multiple people dead. So I've got all these Hispanics that I can hear them whispering and shutting the lights off and pulling the curtains because they didn't expect me to get there in 25 seconds, So before they can shut the door all the way, I put my foot in it, and there's like 6 Mexicans in there, and I've got them all. And one dude's covered in blood, one dude's washing his hands, blood everywhere. And I'm trying to prone everybody out. They don't speak English, All this shit happens, and come to find out it was this guy's birthday, probably 36, 40 years old, something like that, and started being racist towards the Hispanics. So they break up some bottles, and they all get after him with some broken glass bottles. So it wasn't really stabbed as much as he was just slashed everywhere, front and back. I mean, they worked this dude. I mean, his cheek was like, you almost see his tongue. And all of this in front of his kid. Now, it's his kid's birthday, and the mom, against a court order, decides to leave the child there with dad, who no longer has custody of the child, for his birthday. So dad gets drunk and gets racist with these Mexicans who fuck him up. And so now we've got the ambulance that takes the dad away. And I mean, the blood, I think I might have some of the pictures on my phone, but the blood was intense. I mean, splatter.
Does he live?
And I think so. I think he lived. I didn't follow up on that. But what happened between when he left, we had to wait for the mom. And the mom was coming from I want to say Greensboro or something. So I've got this little kid.
You got an hour.
Yeah, at least. And so I put this kid, and I didn't have kids at this point. Or I had maybe my first kid, who was very young at the time. And so I got this kid, and we're watching some kind of stupid cartoon that he wants to watch in my cop car, and I'm trying to type this out. And as I'm typing it out, a little boy's sitting there, and he's watching the thing, and I'm typing out what I saw, and it's all coming to me because I'm writing it.
Yeah.
And as I'm writing the story, and I look over at this little child watching, one of the little cartoons, and I was like, and it was just, all the emotion just came out. Like, it came out of my eyeballs, came out of my nose. And the kid's looking at me, and I mean, I couldn't look at him. I couldn't look at my computer. I couldn't look at anything. Like, it was just, I had to jump out of the car. I couldn't even walk. to get back to my car. I fall down, and I'm just weeping, dude, uncontrollably weeping just from the totality of the circumstance. So the mom gets there. I pass the kid off. I'm composed. Nobody knows. Nobody knows about the breakdown. And this is not in the book. So
maybe should be.
Get back in the car.
It's gonna be.
Get back in the car.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm leaving this scene. Now you're not gonna believe this, but there's reports of all this. And I'm leaving the car. Stolen car goes out, and now it's like 3:00 in the morning. And all I want to do is go get a fucking donut. Remember, I got to work at 6, did a search warrant with a SWAT team until 9, pumped gas, and from 10 till midnight or so, I'm dealing with this shit. Go back, eat midnight chow. Now it's 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and now I got a stolen car that I'm just trying to get to Dunkin' Donuts to get a donut and a coffee, a little apple cinnamon cream filled, and a cup of Joe. And I look up, and the fucking car is in front of me. And I'm like, get the fuck
Did your ride along go,
out.
there
There's
it
no
is?
ride along. It was just me by myself. And I'm like, yo, I'm not doing this. And I was like, I'll light it up. It'll run, and I'm not going to chase it. I light it up, and it runs all about 50 feet into a house, into the corner of a house. It takes off, but it only makes it like 50 feet because it fishtails into the side of a house, hits the house. The woman gets out and takes off running. I chase after her. I yell for her to stop. She won't stop. I lunge out and rugby tackle her because I played rugby for many years. I just perfect form rugby tackle. Slide her on the ground. She screams in agonizing pain and then yells, "I'm pregnant. You just killed my fucking baby." Now, did I kill her baby? No, probably not. And I don't even think she was really pregnant. But now I'm on the ground, on top of a woman, her screaming in pain that she's pregnant. So all this happens. I go to leave work, a shooting goes out. I go to the shooting. It's not that dramatic. The kid dies. I'm just there standing security while he dies, CPR, blah, blah, blah. Get done with that, get in my car, and I drive home. My wife's sitting there. She's got breakfast ready, some eggs and some bacon. I sit down. She's like, "How was your night?" I was like, "It's fine." Go and I take a shower, go to bed, get up, head back and go to the gym, go back to work. And I know I got a lot of typing to do.
Officer so-and-so, can you please come to the office for the damage to city property, please?
Yeah.
Sir?
So you're getting, yeah. So I'm sitting right in the document, and Tom calls me into his office. And he's like, and I'm in the middle of a workout we had a CrossFit gym, a CrossFit coach back then. It was at the height of CrossFit. So I'm, trying to do Fran or some bullshit, And he's like, "Hey, you need to cut that out." And I'm not even supposed to be working yet. And he's like, "I need you in my office." I'm like, "Yeah, all right, fuck." So I end my little workout and I go into his office. And there's a captain sitting there, and he's like, "Hey, man, tell me what happened last night." And I was like, "Which part of last night? Search warrant, the stabbing, the pregnant bitch, or the shooting at the end?" He's like, "All of it." So I tell him, I'm like, "Yo, I did a search warrant from this time to this time to this." He's like, "Is there anything else that happened last night?" And I was like, No. And he was like, "What happened over on Westinghouse?" Now, Westinghouse is a road. It's not the gas station.
Yeah,
It's just a road.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Dude, you got the wrong guy. I know that's not even my beat. I don't fucking do anything on Westinghouse except for get gas." And he's like, "Anything happen?" I was like, "I'm telling you right now, I did not do anything. The only thing I did on Westinghouse was I used Westinghouse to get across Capitol Boulevard to the hotel. That's it." So I was on Westinghouse for like 30 seconds.
Stupid gas.
Because you have no
And
idea
he was like,
what they're
"So
talking
you're
about.
going to tell me that you didn't do anything on Westinghouse last night except get gas?" And I was like, "Nah, that's all I did." And he was like, "Anything happen at the gas pumps?" I was like, "No, there's nobody there." And he's like, is this the hill you want to die on?" And I was like, "Yo, look, I feel like you're trying to throw me a bone right now, but I'm telling you, I didn't stop any fucking cars or arrest anybody on Westinghouse last night. And if somebody says I did, they're a fucking liar. Because I could tell the captain's there, and I know this is going to IA. I'm telling you right now, you got the wrong fucking dude."
Yeah.
And he's like, "I'm not talking about you pulling anybody over. What happened at the gas pumps?" And I said, "Oh, shit." I said, "Yeah, I drove off with the gas pump, but I fixed it." And he goes, "Why didn't you just say that to start this conversation?"
Because it was the last
And
thing
I said,
on your
"Dude,
mind.
I forgot. If you never would have mentioned that gas pump,
You would have never
would
thought
never
of it
never
again.
would have fucking thought about it again." And so I said, "Listen." And so they're all taking the notes, and I know I'm because in the police department, if you lie, you're fired. If there's a penny and you take the penny, you are fired. They don't tolerate it unless you're a captain or above. Then you can lie as much as you want.
Imagine a media agency that can make a documentary that qualifies for Academy Award voting. Imagine another that created a Billboard charting music video for Five for Fighting. Imagine another that has raised so much money for nonprofits in its first year working on the Classy.org platform that at the end of the year, it was named as only the second marketing partner in Classy's history. Imagine another firm that can cover your events anywhere on planet Earth and provide a compelling series of videos about those events immediately and to your needs. And imagine another still that can help your e-commerce business take it to the next level. Now imagine that they're all the same business, Diesel Jack Media. Some of you might be saying, hey, Nick, isn't that your company? And to that I answer, can a company like Diesel Jack Media really be owned? Or can it merely be coaxed out like a beautiful butterfly on a spring day? As you listen to this podcast that, by the way, Diesel Jack Media created, you may be asking yourself, what's our secret? It's simple. We try not to suck. Sounds easy, right? It should be, but somehow marketing companies and media agencies always seem to get it wrong. You see, we don't make PowerPoints about doing work. We do the work because we like the work. And if one of our ideas doesn't work, you know what we do? We try another one again and again and again until our ideas start to work. Because not quitting until it's right is at the heart of not sucking. And as previously mentioned, that's what we try not to do here. Diesel Jack Media. We try not to suck. Visit us at dieseljackmedia.com. That is dieseljackmedia.com.
So
it's like the military.
yeah. So I said, listen.
Exactly.
I said, wait. Go pull the videotapes. I look at the camera and I do this to the camera. Like, there's no way I would try to, oh, Jesus. I would not try to hide this. Like, I went and did it. So they went and pulled the camera.
No. So
and
they
called me back in like a day or two later, just cracking up. And they were like, look at this guy. And I'm like doing that.
That is
Getting back in,
hilarious.
but the one thing that they noticed that I didn't notice was that I had left my car in drive for that second. That
Oh,
I
they didn't
jumped
see
out,
that.
And no, they did see it. And they were like, and like when you ripped it out, like you got out of your car and it kept rolling and you jump back in and you slam it in the park and then you jump out and you pull it out and then you're sitting there doing this and you hook it back together and you do one of these and then you're like, brrr. And I was like, dude, I don't remember any of that. All I remember is ripping the gas pump out.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that, you know, people don't understand that all happens. And for any normal human being, they would need like therapy.
Yeah,
that'd be the
story.
That would
be
it.
That would be the
but
story.
No, that was just my day. That was just my night.
Yeah, because
and
when you're going, you're going.
Yeah.
When you're in go mode, it's like nothing else.
But it totally changed their tune once they saw the video, right?
They did. They were like,
they
this
still
sucks.
thought you were full of shit.
Yeah.
Until they pulled the video and saw the video,
Like
right?
they were like, oh, he's not trying to hide this. Like he literally looked. That's what I said. So how would I be hiding? It's a city gas pump. There's cameras everywhere. Like you have to use a code to get in.
Yeah.
You swipe your card to get gas. You would know if I fucked up the gas pump. You know exactly.
There's probably a
who did it.
timestamp when you swipe your card and all that.
I just in the chaos, and that's crazy how the brain works too. Is like in that chaos, it literally was absent of my mind.
Yeah.
That I ripped that gas pump out, which, you know, was just absent of mind. And the crazy thing about this whole story was I just went back to work. He was like, all right, go finish your workout. I went and finished my workout, and I went back to the street that night. You know, and you don't look at that until now that you're after a cop, and that's been 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think to myself, like, I don't know that cops should be living that life. Like, I feel like if you have an emotional outburst at midnight because of a child in an incident like that, like, I don't know that we should be trusting cops to go to that next call. Because I did tackle a pregnant chick, but what if she was really fucking pregnant and the kid died?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
But again, it's just like the military where you're not allowed to have feelings. You're not allowed to be emotional.
yeah,
you're
because
not
you'll get in
allowed to
trouble.
be
You're almost
affected
punished for it.
because you'll be singled out as
you'll
a
take
guy
your
that
gun
can't do it.
away. You'll take your gun away. You know, it's a whole thing. You know, and I think that's kind of part of the book too. Is like, although that story's not in the book, there's a lot of stories.
Well, I mean, that story's gonna be in there.
Yeah, it has to be.
There's a lot of stories that go into the book that, you know, I really wanted to humanize the badge in a way. Is that like, this is every cop doing this shit. This isn't just some special cop. And like I said to, what's his name on the Simon Schuster? What's his,
Amar.
Oh my God, I can't believe it. Don't let him hear this. But Amar, you know, what I said to him is like a lot of, you know, you come to a point in your career when that stuff has to end. You can't do that for 30 years. You know, and that was the problem I had with Derek Chauvin. He's a street cop for 18 years. Yo, if that dude was racist, no, I'm not saying what he did was right, but I don't think he was racist. I don't think he did it because he was black. But if he was racist, you would have known in 18 years of shit that this dude's racist. Somebody would have called him out. There's too many college kids. You know, almost every cop has a college degree from some liberal college.
Yeah.
You know, so somebody would have called him out if he was truly racist. But nobody should do that for 18 years. And most cops, they come to this line in the sand where they say, I can't be a street cop forever, and I'm going to hang that up. But when you hang that up, if you're a good street cop and you hang that up, it's basically like quitting. You have sold your soul. And then now the rest of your career becomes chasing politics and trying to get promoted and all that. When you're a street cop in the thick of it, your first through 5-6 years, bro, you don't think of promotion at all. It doesn't even cross your brain. You don't want to be a detective. You don't want to be canine. You don't want to be SWAT. All you want to do is manage your beat and try to, and in that camaraderie of your squad is unmatched, other than maybe a Ranger Battalion or, real close, tight-knit combat arms unit. That's all you're thinking about. Well, then when you make that conscious decision as an officer to say, I no longer want to do a street cop, because that's the difference between policing and military. In the military, you just got to ride your time out. In policing, you can just say, fuck this. I'm done being a street cop, and you can go be SRO. Bike, walking, horse and ponies, community police. There's nothing holding you there. You say, I don't want to be a street cop anymore. And they'll be like, all right, what do you want to do? I'd like to be SRO. All right, let's see what we can get you. Maybe you part-time it at first.
Yeah.
But when you do that as a cop, you lose that, and then you go into the political part of policing, and you go in with the good intentions. I'm going to change policing for the better. I'm going to fix it, and then you sell your soul here and there.
People go into politics. Same
and then 18 years in, you're that grumpy piece of shit.
One concession at a time.
Right, and then you're that dude that's just playing the game. He's just showing up. You're making terrible decisions. The line officers hate you. You're another clog in the machine, yada, yada, yada. And for me, it was the last call, and it's a build-up in my book, and I don't want to give it out too much, but, basically I'm faced looking down the barrel of somebody else's gun, knowing I've lost, knowing I fucked up worse than I've ever fucked up in my whole life, and now I'm staring with no gun of my own down another man's pistol who's at the edge, who's a Purple Heart veteran, who doesn't give a fuck, and there's nothing I can say or do to stop this man from making a canoe out of my skull. And I just have to look at him and tell him, hey, I'm done. And when I said I'm done to him, it wasn't like, I'm done, I give up, like, you've got me. No, I was like, I'm done being a cop. Like, me saying that in that moment was not me saying, don't shoot me. It was me saying, all right, if I live through this, I'm fucking done. Yeah. Like this, I'm not doing this anymore. And so luckily for me, I left the profession at that stage with that dramatic story, but I'll always get to look back and know that I was a street cop through and through. I never sold my soul. And so that's what this book was kind of for. It was for that street cop or for the dude that maybe sold his soul. Yeah, because you have to, right? You got to take care of your family. I'm not,
Yeah, I wouldn't say sold your soul. I know where you're coming from.
Yeah, that might be a little rough.
I know where you're coming from.
It's that magic. So everybody else that's written a book about policing, they only use that magical street cop portion of the book for like 2 chapters. And then it's being the detective and working the cases. And then it's, it's really in depth, and it's a me.
Because they see the street cop as the lowest form of police officer. But now I'm a captain, or now I'm a sergeant,
Right.
So I'm
above that.
Any
cop will tell you the most fun they've ever had was when they were just a street cop. Any cop will say, like, dude, if I could take back being a detective to go being a street cop again, but like not have to wear all the fucking clothes.
Movies make being a detective look very
it's the worst.
like,
you get cops to do
I'm chasing these guys down. I've got a murder board. I've got this and that, and it's like you're doing a lot of paperwork.
You're calling the street cop and you're saying, hey, I got homicide warrants out for so and so. Can you do it, or do you got SWAT? Or do you need SWAT? What do you need?
Yeah.
You want career criminal? No,
so you're saying Martin Riggs and Danny Glover, that's not how detectives really are?
Maybe on your drugs and vice side ish,
You have just ruined.
We're gonna pretend.
I'm gonna ignore that.
We're gonna pretend.
I will say there are detectives out there that work hard, career criminal unit, plainclothes guys that do some pretty cool shit. But the street cops get to do it all day, every single day. And it might be domestic violence.
Yep.
It might be car chases. It might be, a wide variety. You might just be changing somebody's fucking tire, to be honest with you. But those days are good too, because you change somebody's tire. Like, how many civilians? That cool. I always say this about cops. You don't want to forget about this about being a cop. Is that ask any civilian? Ask me right now. When's the last time, Eric, that you really helped somebody? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, maybe I gave $2 to somebody on the corner of the road at the red light like a week ago because I felt bad. But that's about the last time. Ask a cop, when's the last time you did something good for somebody? Oh, I changed a tire yesterday on 440. I took a woman from the Dollar General over to Wells Fargo. She didn't have any funds in her bank, so I drove her back to the Dollar General. I just bought the shit for her. And then I played basketball at the boys center, and then I volunteered as a softball coach that night. That's what happens when you ask a cop, when's the last time you did something nice. And I think that most civilians don't have that.
They don't, but most civilians don't have a clue that cops do that.
They don't. They have no idea. I bet you if you had to tally up the amount of Bojangles biscuits that cops buy every year, it's probably what keeps Bojangles in business. Every fucking cop buys Bojangles biscuits for some homeless person every day. Every day a cop is like,
Yeah.
man, if I get you a Bojangles biscuit, would you just shut the fuck up?
Cops
Go
are
away?"
also terrible marketers, though.
That's true.
They're just
That's
they're
true.
just terrible marketers. You know, like they never.
Well, those are the political ones.
They never. But
They're doing it for promotion. They're not doing it at that street cop level.
Yeah.
They're doing it because they want to get promoted. And when you do things for the wrong reason, you look like a cheese dick.
Yeah, of course.
You know, when you called WRAL to tell them that you're about to have a snowball fight with a bunch of kids, like you look like a fucking idiot.
Yeah, that's absurd.
Like, you know that every cop has had a fucking snowball fight when it snows with all the kids, because we're all kids. Even soldiers in Afghanistan have had snowball fights. But when you call WRAL to have them come out there and then you kind of stage it, which is what the police department high-ranking guys, they fucking luscious at. It remind you, because you were in Afghanistan, we talk a lot about Afghanistan, you know, those med caps. Absolute bullshit. You get all these medics, you know, and together, and you're brushing these kids' teeth and giving them vaccines for the camera, and then you fuck right off, and those kids never brush their teeth ever again. There's no follow-up vaccines. You know, they're not getting the peroxide on the gangrene ever again, except for that one moment. And then you got a whole bunch of dudes that are going to suffer from PTSD the rest of the time because they saw the gangrene, and they know that as soon as they leave, that shit will never, ever get healed. But we got the BBCs and we got the fucking newses and all that stuff to get it on camera. It's all very superficial. And that's what that's why I say political police are poisoning the profession. The PPPPs, I say it all the time. And that's what's ruining that profession. Sorry, did I just bore the shit out of you?
No, you didn't. No. This is all good stuff. We don't want to.
All right, let me end it on a funny note.
Let's
Can I give you one funny story?
We're gonna do a couple things. The first thing is you're gonna end by telling us how you feel. It's not official. There's no official anything, but you were pretty much just verbally told that your book's gonna be a go. So how do you feel?
So much. I haven't slept in a week from it. So like I'm trying to
Take your
I
hand-
might have one of those like
take your-
emotional
take-
outbursts
take-
when I get
take-
out here.
take-
Can't get to my truck.
Take your hand away from your mouth and tell
I
us.
fell down and crying or something. I don't know. I mean, overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Excited, ready to work on it, but like overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Crazy, thankful, gracious, anxious. I mean, all the emotions, all
Yeah.
the things. They're all just.
It's gonna be good.
You got
That's
the
right. I
best
think it's
guy on
gonna
the
be-
you got the
be
best
good.
guy on the planet.
Yeah,
helping
and then when he was saying like you need to get an agent, I was like, nah, I kind of have one. Like I feel like I've got one already. Like I don't really need an agent.
So
I got Nick Palmachano on my side.
somebody has to.
I know.
So the agent's job is to fight for like money, rights,
Yeah.
and you want some because
You gotta have it.
these big organizations, they don't really try to screw anyone over because it's not good for them.
No.
Like they don't want a reputation for screwing anyone over. But there are things that a good agent's going to fight for. So you do need somebody to represent you in that, like whether it's an attorney or an actual literary agent,
Yeah.
But we'll figure that out. But yeah, man. I mean, like,
I'm excited for the project, man. I'm excited to work with you. I mean, it's a dream come true for me. And
it's
if anybody out there's listening, man, listen. Like,
it's going to be a real
you
good book.
got to go for it, dude.
Yeah.
Like, if you just sit your whole life and just be like, yo, I'm a C student at best, and you live by that, you're not going to be sitting at the table, like I am right now in front of a microphone. Literally, when I say that I started from the bottom, I'm not joking you. Still not at the top, but I'm at the line. I'm at the same level as everybody else, and that's just as great.
If you work really hard,
yeah,
you'll eventually be back on that fishing boat. We gotta go into rapid fire questions.
Oh, I thought we were
Hollywood,
done,
slide
dude.
the hat.
I thought we were done.
Let me
not
explain
done.
what rapid fire means.
You got to be rapid fire. You
I've
can't.
watched
It
the
show.
can't be you.
So if you don't answer within
All right.
10 seconds, there's an electric
All right.
plate in that
Are
seat.
you ready?
I'm ready.
We're gonna do this because we don't want to run out of camera.
All right, hurry up.
Okay. Question 1. I always ask everybody: what's the toughest animal you could defeat in hand-to-hand combat?
Raccoon.
Good one. What's the worst piece of advice you've ever received?
Go to bed late.
What's one job no one could pay you enough to do?
Roofing.
What's your guilty pleasure?
Porn. I'm just kidding. Don't tell my wife that.
What's your go-to karaoke song?
Alanis Morissette.
Which one?
Jagged Little Pill.
10
That's
seconds.
the album. Okay, give us 10 seconds of it.
Okay. Cause the love that you gave that we made wasn't able to make it enough for me to be open wide. You ought to know. That's the song.
You ought to know.
You.
ought to know.
What's your weapon of choice in the zombie apocalypse?
22.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Name your top 3 favorite cars.
Ford Escort station wagon, Chrysler Town and Country minivan, and whatever those ones that the American pickers drive, that big van. I got 5 kids.
What's the most interesting place you've ever been?
Costa Rica.
Okay. How many 7-year-olds could you defeat before they
All of
overpowered
them.
you? That's what I say. All of them. Every last one.
Fuck all of them.
If you could invite 3 people to dinner, living, dead, fictional, non-fictional, who would they be? Be quick. Don't try to dazzle us with your intellect.
There's no intellect. Okay, Oprah Winfrey.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus Christ.
Mm.
Living or dead, right?
Yeah.
Got to go with Jesus. And Roberto Clemente.
Interesting. What's your favorite book that you've read in the last year?
Scars and Stripes.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate that.
Nice.
Scars and Stripes, available wherever books are sold. What fictional character do you think you're the most like?
Fictional character. Michelangelo, Ninja Turtles.
I thought you were going with the artist. I was like, interesting. He had a very hard life. You're like, no, Ninja Turtles. What celebrity would you most like to switch lives with? And you can't use the wussy answer of,
I'm happy with the way my life is
I'm so happy with
now.
who I am right now. Can't say that.
Oh, God. An actor that I want to switch lives
Any
with?
celebrity.
Any celebrity?
Any celebrity that I want to switch lives with?
Yeah, you got to pick somebody.
Ew, I don't
10,
know. I don't like celebrities.
9.
Come on.
8, 7, 6.
Kelly Slater.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Is Kelly Slater a surfer?
All right.
Yeah.
So, folks, this has been The Neutral Position. I, of course, am Nick Palmisano, and we have been joined by Eric Tansey, an almost Special Forces operator, a Cav Scout, a police officer, a distiller, a cleaner of plates and glasses in that distillery, and soon, if we have anything to do about it, a New York Times best-selling author. The book will be called Pig Latin, and it's coming to you next summer.
You heard it first here on The Neutral Position with Nick Palmisano.